Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players, uncover their stories, and discover what makes them tick. If you love guitar, music, and the backstory of people's lives, stick around. You're in the right place. Hi, this is Craig. Just want to let you know you can now advertise here on Everyone Loves Guitar podcast. For more information, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to another wonderful issue of Everyone Loves Guitar. We got a really cool guest today who's actually one of the most famous people on the internet in the music scene. So I'm very lucky that Quist has been kind enough to come on the show. And Jacob Quistgaard is got a huge, massive YouTube channel. And I'll tell you a little about him. Before we get started, I want to just thank our mutual friend Joe Agello, representing New Yorkers and guitar players everywhere, for hooking me and Quist up. Quist has toured the world for the past decade, most recently in his own name and as a lead guitarist with the British rock legend Bryan Ferry from Roxy Music, of course. He's featured on Bryan's album Avon More. I'm sorry, did I mess that up? Is it Avon More or Avon More?
Avon More.
Avon More. Playing alongside Nile Rodgers, Mark Knopfler, Johnny Marr, Flea, and Marcus Miller. What a cast that is. He's also known, as I said, for his popular YouTube jams and guitar-centric music, which has garnered more than 75 million views on YouTube. And I would encourage you, if you are a guitar player, definitely check out Quist's channel. Just go to YouTube and look up Quist, Quist. His last album, called Trigger, came out in 2017. I would encourage you to check that out. It's a great record. It's got tons. It's really a very layered album, and we'll talk about that today. And his next album is due to be released in 2019. And I've seen some other stuff, though, of yours on Apple Music. It's like...
Yeah, I've released quite a lot of things. I'm trying to release, I don't necessarily just release albums. I like to release, just songs that aren't necessarily attached under an umbrella of an album, So
very cool.
Lots of different little things.
Well, check out Quist on all over the place. He was born in Denmark, Copenhagen, Denmark, moved to London as a teenager because he got a scholarship to study jazz guitar at the Royal Academy of Music. He's been, he's been based out of LA since 2014. He actually started performing professionally at age 7, initially as a child dancer, performing regularly and touring internationally with the Royal Danish Ballet. He picked up his dad's acoustic guitar at age 6, and that led to him eventually giving up his 24/7 ballet life and became a guitar nerd, practicing nonstop and forming his first bands as a teenager. He's also well known in Denmark for his whistling. Fast forward through many failures and some successes along the way. His credits include playing with Little Mix, Missy Elliott, Jamie Cullum, Andy Grammer, Alison Moyet, Valerie June, Danay Suarez, and others. He's performed literally all over the world at venues like the Hollywood Bowl, Royal Albert Hall, the Ryman Auditorium, and Crocus City Hall in Moscow, at major festivals like Glastonbury and Coachella, and he's recorded everywhere from Abbey Road to Bryan Ferry's Studio One. In addition, he's performed on primetime TV and radio shows around the world, such as Jules Holland and BBC Breakfast. Most recently, he did a run of shows in his own name, which I think is really cool, including performances at the 5th International Guitar Festival in Cartagena, Colombia. Quist, thanks so much for your time, man. I appreciate you coming here.
Thanks so much for having me, man. I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome, man. Feelings mutual. So when you played it's Coachella? See, I don't know anything after like 1975, so I see all these spellings and
I really don't know. I think it's just Coachella.
Coachella. When you played Coachella, I need to like hire my 18-year-old daughter to coach me through all these things.
Yeah. Coachella is a weird one, man. It's quite a funny festival because it's at least when I was there, it was alcohol free. Like you could go in, there was like one section where you could drink, but the rest of the festival, as far as I remember, it was alcohol free. So
that's weird.
Very different mood. Like, say when you're at like some British festivals, or like you go to like Oxygen in like Ireland or somewhere like that, and you're literally like scared for your life when you're moving around the festival because people are so drunk and rowdy. it was a very different. Coachella is a really different vibe, because not very many people are drunk, but I think
everybody's got to be stoned out of their mind, though. No,
exactly. Yeah. So it's just a different vibe. Yeah.
Where is that, in the desert in California?
Yeah, is it in India or something? It's it's out in the desert. Yeah, it was crazy hot. It's a hot part of the year as well.
Is weed is legal in California?
It is now. Yeah.
It's funny. Well, my wife and I went to Colorado like 2, maybe 3 years ago, and like you're just driving down the road, and I have no sense of smell at all, zero. So,
right.
Which I don't mind, but I wish my nose wasn't so big. It just seems unfair. But anyway, the point is, we're driving around, and Anne opens the window and she goes, "Holy shit!" Like on the fucking highway, it smells like weed, like all over there, man. And
right.
It's just like here, it's not legal. I think they just made it legal here, but they made it legal, but you can only buy fake weed, or I don't know.
There are still some hoops you have to jump through.
Yeah.
But the weird thing about here is that I'm pretty sure that I've smelled it here when it wasn't actually weed, but it was an actual skunk. Like, because they do have those, they have the actual animal here. So sometimes when I've been up in like the hills, like the Hollywood Hills or whatever, and I've had that smell, I think I'm sure that some of those times will not have been, somebody smoking, but actually, the animal.
Nice.
Which is interesting because it does smell very similar.
Similar to weed.
Yeah.
See all the stuff I'm missing, not having a sense of smell. Coachella. When you played Coachella, Paul McCartney was at the side of the stage. What was that all about?
I don't know how that came about, but and thankfully I didn't know about it till like maybe a couple of songs from the end or something like that. Actually, we would have been, as far as I remember, we would have been doing "Jealous Guy," Lennon's song at the end. So I guess he would have heard that, but I noticed it, I think, around about that time, like basically towards the very end of the set. But the others told me that he'd been there for, I think maybe, probably most of the set, or certainly a very long time. And like I say, thankfully, I didn't realize. And Guy Pratt, our bass player at that time, it was in 2014. He did notice.
So, oh God, that's got to be so scary.
Yeah, I mean, he's a world class bass player. He's been playing with David Gilmour, Pink Floyd, since the 90s. He's done and had sessions with like Madonna and Michael Jackson. He's a class A dude. But still, it's Paul freaking McCartney at the side of the stage, so you're just going to be, And I, of course, was, I was like, holy, that's actually that guy. He's right there. But, it was a festival scenario, and afterwards, straight after the gig, it was all logistics and so I didn't actually get to hang out with him because we had to, move on to a different place and blah, 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 blah. So out of the many, musicians I've been lucky to meet, especially in the last 10 years, I don't count him as one of them because we didn't actually get to connect properly. So, but hopefully at some point.
Well, it's funny though, like I interview some people and like, so that would have translated onto some, not you, but some people would have said on their bio, shared the stage with Paul McCartney at Coachella. I'm not kidding, because sometimes I get some of these and it's like, and so I always probe a little bit with like, not always, but if I have the chance, like, hey, I noticed that you said you shared the stage with Paul McCartney, man. Did you really? And then they say, and then so I just, and I can't be reading shit like that. Like,
yeah. Or like if they played the festival later on in the evening and you played, the opening slot or whatever, which I guess is
open for Paul McCartney.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but
Yeah, and everybody's listening to this as a musician, so they know the deal anyway. So it's like, let's just like, there's no need to be a poser here. Anyway, man, congratulations. I was really happy for you that you got to play your own music at a festival, because usually when they don't allow you to go on a festival even until you've done other, like the hierarchy of booking, isn't it? That like you have to show them we've done other festivals, and I was really happy for you, man. And maybe you have. I don't know. I'm speaking out of school.
Thanks very much, man. But well, I mean, I think the first thing to do here is big up that festival, because to be honest with you, that's not your run of the mill festival. That's an actual like guitar festival. We were just talking about it. It was the festival in Colombia, Cartagena, and it was literally heaven on earth for a guitar nerd. You know, it was just great guitarists from all over the world getting together and playing for it was various gigs across a number of days, but like the last night of the festival was like at this theater, and I mean it was a full packed, huge theater with people just totally enjoying and immersing themselves in, completely guitar-based music. I was like, wow, I'm home type thing. I was just like, I get to do like, just really, the thing that I love the very most, just dig deep into the guitar, and there's like all these, this massive crowd of people that are just there to enjoy music like that. It was pretty special. So I hope that it's their 50th year, so they're doing well. But I hope that that they'll do really well. Of course, there's other festivals like that around the world, and not just for guitar, but yeah, no, that was a great moment. It was one of the highlights really of last year.
How did it feel, just performing your stuff?
Great, man. Yeah, I love it. I feel like, like you mentioned, that I've been on stage since I was 6 or 7 or whatever. I feel like in some parts of performing, I'm kind of experienced and know a lot, but I also feel like I'm still learning a lot of stuff. I feel like when I tried out stuff that I haven't really done to that extent before. When I was at that festival, I did like these sing-alongs. I would start a loop with my loop pedal, and then I'd get them clapping, like do the hands over the head clap, and get the whole crowd clapping, and then I would play little solos, just little phrases that could be sung back by them.
Sure.
Singing back my phrases, and I played a phrase, they would sing it back. So call and response with this massive crowd. That was kind of I did that on the first night that I played there, and it was totally spontaneous. I hadn't thought of doing it actually. It was just because that was an out. Oh, are you getting this? Yeah,
no, but it's great. You didn't plan that?
No, I didn't plan that at all. No, because I'm kind of a the thing is, I'm kind of a jazz musician at heart, so I like to improvise. Not everything, but I like to improvise a lot. So anyway, so we were playing this outdoor gig the first night, and it was a really, really big crowd, like really big outdoor kind of scenario, and I just felt like I got to do something to really, to engage people, and there were other people there that had been very that have been very good at that. There was Thomas Lieb, the pioneer fingerstyle guitarist. Mike Dawes was there as well. They're really good at engaging a crowd. So I thought I got to step up my game here. And then it just came to me while I was playing, like, let's do this kind of, quite cheesy, I guess, but let's do this, sing along kind of a call and response thing. And it worked so freaking well. And I had all this massive crowd singing. So I did that basically on the rest of that tour. I did it every night. There was not a single night where I didn't do it, because I was like, I love this, So what I'm trying to say is I'm still learning and experimenting and trying to see how I can better connect with audiences, because, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about connecting and making people feel when you play. And the more you can do that, and the more you can entertain and have people leave having had a great time, the better you are at doing your job, really. So I'm still trying to figure out how I can do that, in a way that makes everybody happy, including myself.
Man, I really give you a lot of credit, because that takes there's a leap of faith you got to make to do that, especially like, and it's probably better that in a sense that you didn't plan that, because had you planned it, you might have had this whole like okay, here goes. But you just wing it, and it's like you really didn't give a shit. And
exactly. But I think it's the giving. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really, and you know what, too? That's engaging people outside of your instrument is a mutually exclusive skill set from being a great player and an emotional player. And I think that, and that is a skill set that a lot of people, a lot of players want, because I know this because I ran a survey, and that particular skill set actually came up one of the top 5 things that people want to know how to do. So interestingly enough, that's really cool that you did that, man. I bet you felt like $1 million after that, like, and from a confidence standpoint.
It was pretty exhilarating.
Yeah,
it was pretty, I definitely felt like I'd opened the chapter where I was like, whoa, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then, it was definitely, it feels good, like I said, it's about connecting, isn't it? When you go out and play. And I feel like I've played enough gigs where I felt like, this was one of the main reasons that I didn't become a straight ahead jazz musician. Because when I was learning jazz, I studied jazz and stuff, and I was involved in, the jazz scene in England. And I mean, I love jazz and all, I have nothing bad to say about jazz and jazzers, really. But for me personally, I felt that I was, sometimes jazz would have a place where I felt like you weren't connecting. It would have a place as an art form where I felt like it was, the way that you were connecting with people was maybe not the way that I was wanting to connect with people.
Sure.
So I just didn't feel it was that, it just didn't work for me.
Did you at any point the following week, once you got home, say to yourself, how is it I can get 200,000 people to do exactly what I want, but I cannot get any one of my kids to do what I want?
Yeah, that's a good question.
'Cause that's what I'd be thinking when I got home from that thing.
Yeah, 2 very different skill sets.
Yeah, I never seemed to figure that second one out.
Yeah.
Man, you were born in Copenhagen, Denmark, and then you moved to London. Was that primarily to study music at the Royal Academy?
Actually, man, it was. I moved first. Basically, I'm nearly moved to America. I'm going to give you the long story since we have this forum now. But I nearly moved to America when I was in my teens, and because I wanted to study. I was just an absolute guitar nerd, involved in hero guitars, playing just all the big heroes from the 80s and 90s, and so I wanted to go to Musicians Institute here in Hollywood, and I decided to finish what's called gymnasium in like high school or whatever in Denmark. So stayed in school basically in Denmark, and then by the time I finished that, they had made a Musicians Institute in London, or I became aware of it anyway. And so I decided, hey, maybe I'll go to that. So I basically was there for a year, and it was really cool. I met some amazing guitarists. The head of guitar was Eric Roach, who is one of the pioneers, really, of again the fingerstyle, like percussive fingerstyle thing. He's got an album called Percolator, which made some waves at that point. But anyways, he also actually sadly died really early. But he was a really influential figure, and so he was there. And then there was also a few other really influential teachers there, and one of them was a teacher at the Royal Academy. So basically, he this guy called Ed Spate. He was basically said, "Hey, why don't you try and get into the Royal Academy now that you've done this thing and done well at that or whatever?" So I said, "Yeah, why not?" And then I basically, went to the. I got one of my best friends, a great drummer by the name of Jacob Smedegaard, to come and try and audition as well. And we both got in. I got in on a scholarship, which made it possible for me in the first place, because I don't know how I would have paid for it if that hadn't happened. But yeah, then I made it into the Royal Academy, and then that was it, man. I was stuck in London for quite a few years. That's how my career started, really, because of that.
How old were you when you went to MI in London?
End of my teens, I think, something like that.
So it's pretty young.
Yeah.
To leave home, it's pretty young.
Yeah, no, I never lived in Copenhagen or anywhere apart from a very small period. I never lived in Denmark as a grown up. I moved straight to London, man. I said, okay, parents, thanks for doing what you done. Now I'm moving abroad. So it's pretty weird, man. I've never been. So when people ask me about like culture in Denmark and basic like cultural stuff as a grown up, I don't really have a clue, man. And when I go to, I remember like 10 years ago or whatever, I remember being in Copenhagen and entering a shop, and then somebody speaking to me in English before I'd said anything myself. And I was like, I speak Danish. I mean, what's the problem here? But it's just because I looked, I guess, not Danish.
Really?
From not having, I mean, obviously my
your features.
My features are like, I have blonde hair and all that Scandinavian stuff. But maybe I don't dress like a Dane anymore. Or
your body language.
Or my body language is not maybe Danish anymore. All that stuff.
That's funny.
Changed, so it's pretty weird. So in some ways I'm really Danish, but in some ways I'm really not, man. I spent a really long time, in British culture and now in American culture, and I feel so at home in American culture. So I don't know what I am anymore. At this point I just am.
I don't know if anybody does. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, right,
it doesn't join the club.
Yeah.
What are your parents still in Denmark?
Yeah, they're very Danish.
Okay. So you go over there once in a while to see them, and that would be about it?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's wild. Okay, so you go to MI, and then you go to Royal Academy of Music. What do you do after you graduate, career-wise?
I write a lot of songs. I start a band. I mean, which I had already started at high school. At the academy. And I basically had various bands since I was a teenager, and one of them that was that became more serious was the one that formed at the Royal Academy. And we went on the first tour we did was straight after I finished the Royal Academy, where we just did all the, like, it's called the toilet circuit or whatever in England, just all the really rough, like, rock clubs around, and like slept on people's floors.
Are they called working man's clubs?
There are, these particular venues aren't actual working men's clubs. There are working men's clubs, but these are like actual rock venues, but just like,
dives,
kind of rough, I don't want to. It's not. I don't want to say anything bad about that. It's because anyways, yeah, you got to do what you got to do, and we certainly did that for and that was a huge learning experience. It was really. We got onto this tour with a Danish band that had.
Oddly enough, you come to England.
I know
you're touring with a Danish band.
It was this manager who had like this company called something like Scandophile Management or something, because she was English and had contacts, but she for some reason had a thing with having gotten some success with some Danish acts or whatever. So that's how we got involved in it. But yeah, it was rough, like the guys who were out with were like just absolutely just, you couldn't get any closer to alcoholism if you tried. You
were playing what kind of music at this point?
This was rock.
Okay.
This was, but but rock played by somebody who's really, who comes from other places than just that. So, which I think, without getting too deep about it, is maybe the reason that it didn't happen the way that it did, because, I was maybe trying to be something that I wasn't, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Interesting when you said that. I'm sorry to cut you off. When you said, because I listened to Trigger, and I had a hard time thinking of you just playing rock.
Right.
Because Trigger is not, I mean, it's a lot of things. It's not, rock. And it's just like pure rock. There's obviously rock elements in there, but, especially when you're playing original stuff.
Yeah. No, but well, that's the thing. But the thing is, it's it's a kind of a blessing and a curse. I love a lot of things, and I'm able to play a lot of different things. And I'm sure you get this from lots of people that have had, similar careers as I am having. And, it's like, when you can do a lot of stuff, you got to be extra careful about what you're actually doing in order to actually have, gain the momentum that's required for getting to the upper levels of what you're doing. So, but yeah, I absolutely freaking love rock, but it's just, I think I do best when there's other elements involved in it that fulfill some of the stuff that I spent all my youth digging into, but I love rock, man. I mean, tonight I'm going to rehearse with Jane's Addiction drummers Stephen Perkins.
Very cool.
Whitesnake bass player Michael Devon. We're playing at this Rock for Relief thing for the firefighters. We had all these wildfires and stuff not very long ago, and we're going to be rocking out with also with some other people like Billy Morrison from Billy Idol and all that. But that's going to be a rock kind of scenario, and I love that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's I do feel at home in that, but it's and probably that's why I like Bryan Ferry as well. It was kind of perfect because it's got he rocks out, but he also has an element of just crazy bag of all sorts of other influences in there, and that so that's really a totally awesome kind of playground, but yeah.
So you did that. Sorry, man. So you did that tour.
Yeah. So we did the. You're going back to after high school.
No, after Royal Academy. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did that tour, and just worked for, writing songs, and we had some interest from some labels. We had interest from various people. We signed a production deal with some people, produced a bunch of stuff, but it didn't happen the way that I wanted it to happen. And at the end, it faced me with like one of the hardest decisions that I had to make. Like and it was it was like a combination of things. It was like a cliche. Like one of the guys in the band was basically an alcoholic. He's since gone on to pretty much clean himself up and has a gig with a world famous rock icon now. I don't want to say who because I don't want to.
No.
But the drummer in that band as well was my best friend, and we played together for like 10 years. Just absolutely, he was the best drummer I ever played with at that time, and he was my brother. And so I made the tough decision of just saying, like, guys, I've got to throw the towel in the ring at this point and just like move on and maybe just do my own thing and do that for a while. And then I started, doing stuff under my own name, basically, and here we are now.
When you split from a situation like that, do you need a detox window? Like just a time to, because it never ends, happy. Do you need like a month off or 2 months off to just like, I don't know, go work in a coffee shop or something?
No. I'm kind of a workaholic, and I dig, it's also when there's now I don't have a choice. I feel like I just got to keep on running. I always just take massive bites and chew as fast as I can. Like, isn't that what like Hogan said? Like, just chew as fast as you can. But I don't feel like I have a choice now, but I think already back then I just my mechanism is more to just bury myself in work, just process stuff that way. You know what I mean? And music's always been my medicine anyway. Like, I think I would have been probably, in some mental home somewhere by now if I hadn't had, the ability to like put stuff into music.
Sure.
and formulate stuff in musical terms like that, because that's always been my cure and my fix and my medicine. So I think that's what I did basically. I at the time just wrote an album in my own name, and then wrote another one, and
you released these records.
Yeah, I've actually taken one of them down because I didn't think it was good enough. Some of the songwriting I'm pretty proud of, but the production was really not very good. It was the first thing. One of them was the first thing I ever did, or one of the first things that I did, producing stuff myself in terms of home studio skills and stuff like that. So it was a massive learning curve, and I sometimes wish that I'd gone and taken some of the songs and had it done properly with somebody that knew what the F they were doing. Do you know what I mean? So that was a big learning curve, and I still feel like I produce a lot of music. I've produced so much music that I feel somewhat confident with some of the stuff I'm doing, but still when I go and see people that are super producers, and I'm like, wow, yeah, while I was playing my guitar for 8 hours a day, that's what they were doing 8 hours a day for as long as I've been doing guitar. So no wonder that they know how to make stuff sound amazing, and I don't. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you can only serve so many masters, man. You can't be great at if you get to be excellent at one thing, you've done good, really good, really
but
well.
It seems like along with like social media, it seems like almost part and parcel of like modern musicianship. People can play something, but they also nowadays, they know how to like big themselves up on social media, or like, get a following on social media, especially like, really young people that build up massive Instagram accounts and whatnot. Yeah. And then the third thing being, having production skills and stuff. It's very common nowadays that people are just this 360 production house, this like everyone's become like their own label and PR and whatnot. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. But I just the way it is. I think that's just the way it is now. For ambitious, if you're ambitious, that's what you do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's crazy, because there's only so many hours in the day, and I feel a lot of people are focusing. It's for me, it's the balance, getting the balance right. A lot of people focus a lot on build it, on the social media stuff, and then for some people it pays off because they get massive on social media, and then they can build. Well, we'll see what the future has in store, because it's all happening now, I guess. But I mean, some people seem to build real careers from social media presence, and that's cool. I mean, it's cool, but it's like, if that's all you're thinking about every day, is like creating your 30 seconds or 1 minute clip on Instagram. I'm like, that's interesting. I have lots of respect for it, but I don't know. I kind of I dig into, I guess, just different formats than that. But sometimes I just say to myself, "Oh, you should do that." But then I'm like,
but you have. Look at your channel, your YouTube channel.
No, absolutely. I do it on YouTube because I have passion for YouTube. Yeah. No, I do. I mean, and yes, I do believe in the model of having social media create a platform from which you can, build an actual career. No, otherwise I probably wouldn't have done what I'm currently doing.
Yeah.
I do totally believe in it. I guess what I'm saying is, it's dangerous in some ways where you don't get the balance right. If you're like, spend all your time creating this content and you're like, thinking about how can I sit in this cool place and I can record this little snippet, and it becomes more about the presentation and than the actual content, and at the end of the day, like I think about things like what I'm going to leave behind and stuff like that when I'm no longer here. And I'd like to leave something behind that I can be proud of in terms of music that I've created.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest with you, I've created very few things that I'm proud of as of yet, I'm still chasing that one. I'm always trying to go to find that, to find the space and the situation in which I will create something that I can be truly proud of. So,
yeah, I'd say, from my experience anyway, it's as you said, it's a blessing and a curse to work like that, because the blessing is you are ambitious and you usually get places. The curse is you never make yourself happy. Mm-hmm. And that sucks. You want to be, you got to figure out, and it didn't happen to me till I was older, to figure out a way to do all those things. And, and I guess for me, when I started thinking about what does make me happy, then I was able to, when I put my happiness in the forefront, everything else sort of fell into place. And that's not like perfect by a long shot, but it's a work in progress, I think. But it helped when I focused on that. For me, everybody's journey is different, then, I think. And I think those guys that do that, the people that, I think they're appealing also to a different group of people that you probably are. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And which is, the nice thing about social media, that everybody can have an audience. I mean, nice when it's, not so nice when the person's an idiot maybe, but, you know what I mean? I think you can find your own crowd out there, sort of.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I'm not knocking it, because it's also what some people are trading is inspiration. They're basically providing inspiration for other people as well. They're little snippets of cool playing or whatever. It's like, it's awesome. It's spreading inspiration in the world. So it can be a great thing. I'm definitely not knocking it. But putting happiness first, man. Like you just said, like doing that's a good one. Yes.
Hey, so then when and why did you move to LA?
Okay. So, well, basically, so I gave you the story of wanting to move there when I was a teenager. So basically, I started working, started getting gigs, with various people and in London, and some of the people were American artists. One of them was Christina Train, who'd been out playing fiddle and singing with Herbie Hancock. She got signed in London and then needed a band there. And another was Valerie June, who's this really great kind of folky blues artist. And she had some Americans in her band already, and they sort of it just reminded me how I always, like, literally from I was like 16, thought that it would be awesome to be in the context of American society, to see what my kind of music world would sit like in the context of American music world, and so they just kind of reminded me, like, wow, yeah, I should try that. And I was kind of encouraged to do it. They were like, you would kill it in New York. You should come over and do it. And I was like, yeah, that would be really good fun. So I thought, I got to do this. And then yeah, so I just decided it was just. I mean, my kids were young enough for me to be like, I can make this happen without causing too much like trouble as well, in terms of like having like established, lives that would be difficult or for them to to reshape. And I just thought now is the time. And then and so that's why I moved, because I was like, wow, yeah, I've always wanted to do this, and now is a time when I'm actually able to, and I feel inspired to do so. But yeah, then I got the gig with Bryan Ferry actually when I decided to move, and then I kind of.
But is he based out of the UK though, right?
No, he's totally.
He's here now. Okay.
No. He's totally based in London. Yeah, 100% like
That's
London.
what I thought. Yeah.
So I basically decided to stay with him for a year and just do that and get that under my belt, and then move at the end of that first year with him. So that's what I did. So I started working with him in like early 2014, and then we moved out in at the very end of 2014, just before New Year's Eve, and yeah, that's it basically. And then as it happens, they decided to that it was okay to just fly me back and forth. Okay, so
you were able.
So I wasn't expecting to stay with him. I was just like, thanks for a great year, blah blah blah. And then they offered, to keep me on and just fly me back and forth. And I was like, all right,
that's great, man.
That's cool. So that also meant that I came to LA with not
with a
like
gig.
Yeah, I didn't come like oh, I need to,
starving musician.
I didn't come as a starving musician and like having to try and like hustle up gigs and be like just trying to get anything going type thing. So, and I mean that can be a good thing to be. Sometimes when you're desperate, you make great stuff happen, I guess. But that wasn't the kind of mindset I came to LA with. Because I kind of had that gig and wasn't just running around trying to get stuff. But it was helpful. It was super helpful in terms of opening up doors. Even though he's a kind of a different generation. You definitely meet younger people and they're like, Brian who?
Really?
Yeah, unfortunately, you do meet people that Americans, anyways. That
my kids wouldn't know who Bryan Ferry is, and my oldest is 28.
Yeah,
so that's probably,
then some people, when you say Roxy music, they will know, but still, but obviously the older generation, I remember like buying my first car over here, and I mentioned that I played with Bryan Ferry, and he was like, oh. I think that probably made the difference that made him let me buy that car with the financial situation. He was like, oh, okay. So yeah, that it's definitely for some people it's a name that has opened up some doors, and I'm super grateful for that. Because yeah.
Did you wind up working with any of those artists? The woman who played fiddle and the other gal that you talked about. Mm-hmm. Did you wind up working with them over here?
Oh,
Christina Train, I think you said.
Christina Train, yeah. Well, she lives. I saw her when we played the Ryman Auditorium. She came out and we had an almighty catch up. And she's a lovely, extremely talented singer songwriter. We haven't actually worked together since then, but she's been in Nashville. She's created a new album with Nashville guys. I mean, there's a few people in Nashville that know how to play and write.
Yeah, just a few. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's a pretty crazy place in terms of how.
Oh, it's talent. a great place to find good talent there, man. Really, and everybody's very, very nice.
Yeah.
Really supportive.
Yeah.
How did you first get hooked up with Bryan Ferry?
That was through through his manager at the time. He's not his manager anymore, but he was. He had a thing actually where he managed another Danish act, as well as Bryan Ferry, and when he's a lawyer, basically, like he's educated as a lawyer. So I got in contact with him. I think through that Danish band, really quite a few years ago, and I used his advice. I asked him for advice when I was offered contracts for various stuff, like publishing stuff and whatever. So I'd sort of had a sporadic working relationship with him throughout a few years, and he'd seen me perform several times, and he put me on. He actually put me on a tour as well, where I was supporting. It's just in my own name in Denmark, and so he knew, a bit of what I could do. And so when Bryan was considering new guitarists, he put me forward for it, and yeah.
So you went out for an audition?
Yeah, I did. I was going to not do that because of the way that it was kind of served to me. I'd just been out with Valerie June, the American girl that I mentioned, and I'd really been like, I had a great time and been very much myself in that context. I was, a lead guitarist, getting to play lots of solos, very raw and bluesy, sometimes a little bit jazzy, but being a lead guitarist, doing solos and which is basically what I love, and it's kind of at the core of, it's what I do best, basically. And so I felt very much like, wow, I felt at that point like I picked up a bit of momentum. And what they asked me to do was to come and audition to be the rhythm guitarist for Bryan Ferry. And I just thought that it doesn't feel like the right thing for me to do. Like, it's probably not going to make me happy, and it's it's maybe not a good thing to do at this point. But my wife was like, shut up, man. Don't just whatever, you say whatever, just go and see what happens.
Is your wife from the UK, or is your wife from?
She's from Scotland.
Okay.
Yeah, she's a bass player.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's a rock bass player. She's like, she plays rock, and she plays rock well, but but that's what she does. That's
right.
She's very much a rock bass player. But yeah, she's basically said, just stop saying anything, and you're going to that audition. So I did, and then I did some things and and then they asked me to solo on some things, and one of the things that actually I had to solo on was "Slave to Love," which is one of his biggest hits, I guess, from the 80s, and I just absolutely butchered that, man. I was so bad because I did not know that song. I mean, I kind of heard it maybe a few times. I guess I would have heard it, but I regret to say, like, it's embarrassing, but I didn't really know it that well. So, and that was the part of the let's say audition process where they just throw stuff at you. So like they threw a Dylan song at me, just like that. I was they were in the control room. I was in the studio, and they just pressed play on something, and they just made me play on a Dylan song. And I love Dylan. I'm a freaking huge Dylan fan. So I just started playing along, and they're actually going to use that for an advertisement. They were doing an actual recording session right there without me necessarily knowing what was going on. But they just threw stuff at me, and one of the things they threw at me was "Slave to Love." And like I say, oh man, it was so bad because, like, there's a few changes that aren't that obvious in that song, and I was like, oh, okay, that key now. Oh, okay, that key now. It was pretty embarrassing. But they also made me play on other stuff like that. I obviously made them realize that I can play lead guitar pretty well. So then they called me up the next day saying, hey, we would like to offer you the job as lead guitarist.
Wow. So you must have felt like $1 million bucks.
So that was one of the biggest moments of the last 10 years. Yeah, I still remember, just getting that call and being like, okay, that's not even what I was expecting. And that is the best freaking move I've.
But what happened? Did they have a lead guitarist at the time?
Yeah, I thought they did. And I mean, I don't know what the situation really was. They'd had a lead guitarist for a very long time.
What was his name? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Right. But yeah, I didn't know, I thought that I was going to be, basically playing in the background of him. And I'd done another gig recently, or a few years before or whatever, where I was like playing backup for somebody who's playing. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm going to sound super arrogant, but I didn't particularly respect his playing that much. He was a really great singer-songwriter, but I felt like, hey, if you let me go and play some solos, it might be fun too, And but obviously that's not. I didn't say that, and I would never do anything to make that happen because I'm a professional and I want people to employ me again. So I would never do that. But I had been in that kind of situation. I just thought that feels so not right for me to be in that situation. I didn't want to be in that. So that's why I nearly said no. So when they offered me to actually do the thing and do it as a lead guitarist, I was like, "Hook, yes."
Yeah, that's cool.
That was a big moment for me. Yeah.
Do you typically listen to your wife when she says, "Hey, shut up, pay attention"?
No.
Really?
No, I do, I guess. It depends what it is.
Now you're thinking, well, she's going to listen to this. If I say this,
oh, I should say yes.
This happens. If I say that happens.
I don't know, man. But that one was like, that one was definitely, that one was definitely one of those where it's like, okay, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. Because that was a pretty good thing she told you.
Oh yeah, I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. The only reason I even asked you is because I could see my wife doing the same thing. I pretty much always listen to her. She's pretty smart. She's got good common sense. So, and when she, so I was just curious because I definitely would have jumped the gun sometimes on that. Maybe as I'm older now, maybe not so much, but definitely 5-6 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. You mean for advice, like for?
Well, I tend to, I not anymore, but I have tended in the past to be more too black and white about things. And and now I'm not, I really, not that I'm always a work in progress trying to get better as a human being, but I tend to be a little more easygoing about stuff in general and just like, okay, let's take it as it comes. I don't have to make a decision right now. So let me go audition, see what happens. And then when I have to make a decision, and besides, if I have to make a decision about turning down a job, that's not a bad decision to have to make. You never know where it could lead. Whereas in the past, I'd be like, nope, I got my ways. I'm like, I'm not fucking doing that. But then my wife would come along probably and say like the same thing. And I would have listened to her. Yeah. Now I'm a lot more, just less, I put less pressure on myself. So it's just, I don't feel the stress. Just,
right.
Not if my wife heard me saying I'm more Zen than I used to, she would laugh in my face, but she would acknowledge that it's true because I'm not Zen fucking by a long shot, but I am much more than I used to be, man. I'm from the Bronx. We can only do so much. And I am aware of that. So I work within, little, what is it? Eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good story, man. And obviously it worked out for you and it worked out for Bryan and the rest of the band. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I should say I do listen to my wife, obviously. So I don't want to get in trouble here.
Yeah, you had like, I
use her like
5 minutes to think about that thing. You did. You definitely came up with the right answer. Go ahead, finish, please.
I use her as a bouncing ball all the time. I'm sure you do as well.
Oh yeah, my wife's very sharp. She got a lot of common sense. Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, if you asked her if I listened to her, she would say no, because she remembers all the times where I seem like I don't listen to her, but I always used her. I use her as a, to go back and forth. And I like, and that's a privilege, and she does.
Oh, hell yeah.
So yeah, but obviously it's not always that you're gonna then agree. But it's good to have the.
Man, you were like ahead, and then you had to go and finish that sentence. You were like doing really well, man.
Damn.
Man, you spent time in the studio. If I read that correct, you were in the studio with Nile Rodgers, Knopfler, Johnny Marflee, Marcus Miller.
No.
Okay. No. What was the deal with that?
Yeah, that was his album, Even More, Bryan's album. And the thing is, much of Even More was already formed when I came on board.
Okay.
Like I literally was invited in to do some like finishing touches.
Okay.
So all of these guys had already done their stuff.
Okay. So you didn't get to hang out with them.
No.
All right.
I mean, I have met Niall before with Valerie June. Actually, we excuse me, we met at a festival in Holland where we shared the backstage area and got to hang for the better part of a day and
Oh, that's cool.
Awesome dude, so freaking inspiring.
Yeah,
the both in person and the way that he interacts, with an audience and stuff like that. It's so inspirational. But no, we didn't in that context. We didn't get to. But another thing with Niall though is I got to listen to his recordings quite a few times in Bryan's studio, not just for the making of the album, but when we would learn stuff, when we would go out on tour with Bryan, whenever that happens, often we'd get sent stems, so like the individual tracks of stuff, so that we would know various parts, so that and the thing about Bryan's music is there's a lot of parts in it. Like a lot of the time, it's like this amazing, just he's throwing a lot of stuff at the canvas, and it all sits there beautifully. But what they would do is send us the stems so that we could listen to them individually, and I got to listen to stems from like Mark Knopfler and Gilmore and obviously.
Wait a minute, he had Gilmore and Knopfler on his record?
Yeah, I don't think Gilmore was on this record, no. Oh, but he is on his record,
geez,
yeah.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, Mark Knopfler was on this record, but he recorded that, I think, a really long time ago. Like that, the part of that album, Even More, was recorded like I think maybe decades ago. Like it was, part of it was stuff that he'd had just lying about brewing, and that he picked up and did stuff to and then finished. But yeah, coming back to listening to stems, listening to Nile Rodgers, just individual guitar track, it's like so freaking inspiring. Just hearing that very naked and seeing what it is. That was one of the really inspirational things about that kind of interaction. That we
Okay, so let's talk about. I want to talk about your YouTube channel. First of all, congratulations on your success with that. I know how very difficult that is to do, to build up. I know the commitment it takes. I know the time frame. And now that I'm getting to know you a little bit, when I add into that your incredibly demanding work ethic, I know how difficult this whole thing is, because it's, and to do this, it's not like you kill yourself for a day or two and then it's over. This is like bloodletting periodically, on a regular basis. So I really give you a lot of credit and congratulations for that. What prompted you to, just for the people that don't know, talk about your channel and then talk about what prompted you to start this, and maybe what the journey's been like, to the extent that you're comfortable sharing whatever parts of it. Because I don't think people, I think things like this, I think any kind of thing where you have a slow growth, people are only aware of you from the point in time which they you have this curve, this line that's going up, and at various points in time, people intersect with that line, and they don't understand, if someone comes in here, that there's all this shit underneath. They have no clue what's involved. So if you just talk about it freely and just whatever you feel comfortable and,
Well, I mean, it's mostly music basically, on my channel. And, it was something that's I'd done since I was a child, basically. When I was learning myself, I created like jam tracks for myself. So when I would want to learn like a mode, say if I wanted to learn Phrygian mode, I record it like on a little tape machine, like really bad quality. I would just record 5 minutes of me strumming a Phrygian progression, and then I would rewind, and then I would jam on that for ages. So that was something that I did when I was I don't know, from maybe when I was 13 or something, like really young, and that had been one of the main ways that I learned how to play guitar, basically, just doing lots and lots of playing. And so fast forward a number of years, and in London, I got roped into this school, which is like the Musicians Institute of London, if you will. It's like the same kind of thing, like a school that turns out musicians that go on to become, the top session players and that kind of that kind of scene. Excuse me. And so I was there doing I was teaching like a live music workshop type thing, and some of my students, I was like, well, let me make you a jam track for this particular thing that we were talking about. And so I said, well, hey, I've just uploaded this thing, and you can go there and you can come next week knowing this.
So you randomly uploaded it to YouTube because it's a central hub where everybody can come check it out.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I mean, I knew what YouTube was because I was really late to the game. If I'd started at the game, when YouTube started, God knows what kind of size my channel would have now, but because I was 5 years late to the game. I started in late 2010, so it had already been going for about 5 years. So I was actually late to the game, and it wasn't just some freak accident so I knew what YouTube was, and I was like, well, I'm going to put my stuff up there, and then these guys can access it whenever they want, and then maybe some other people will enjoy it. So I made some really cheesy just D Dorian jam track or whatever, just me having some fun and making something that is specifically in the context of D Dorian. We haven't disclosed this fact yet, but I am a huge nerd when it comes to music. I'm a music nerd, and I spend a lot of time, at the Royal Academy, and well, actually way before that, I was self-taught when I was a teenager, just dug into music theory books and all that sort of nonsense. And so I put all that into some tracks, and put them out on YouTube, and some of them became popular and started to build. And I thought, that's nice, man. I enjoy that. That's something to do. And then
what year was this?
Well, that was 2010. I put my first stuff up, and it's rough as hell. It does not sound good. I was not. It was just I was just doing whatever I could with whatever I had.
Of course,
which was not that much, in terms of skills and equipment and whatever. But I just put it up because I was like, this is, this will be of service to somebody. I knew that was going to be of service to some of the people at this school, which was called Guitar Tech at the time, then became London School of Music, and then it became or Tech Music Schools, sorry. And now it's been bought by BIM, Brighton Institute of Modern.
Oh yeah, same as they have in Ireland.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's a big school now, but they got bought up by them, so that it's now under the BIM bracket. So it's a great school.
It's like music. It's like guitar. It's like Musician Institute.
It totally is, man. It's the best that London's got to offer, and Berlin and Ireland, and all these other places. Obviously, the first one's from Brighton. So yeah, it's a cool place. But yeah, so I knew that there were going to be people that were going to benefit from it in there. But then it just started to catch a little bit of fire on the internet, and then I just kept on doing it here and there. And then I put out some guitar music as well, because I thought, well, if they like that, they might dig into some of my more guitar-y kind of music. And that became the thing, that it is now, which is just it's the outlet that I have for my music and for jam tracks that invite people to be creative themselves, whether they're doing it because they want to learn a certain thing, or whether it's just because music is, like I said, medicine. It's not just to me that music is medicine. It's the best freaking thing you can do when you come back from work and you play the blues. You can clear your whole day in 5 minutes of blues. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
That's the best freaking feeling, when you just jam out and you put it all out on your instrument, and you afterwards you feel like, yes. And it feels awesome doing it with other people and for other people. But even just doing it with a piece of music that will really get you into it, that's what I'm aiming for, to give people that kind of experience, available anytime and anywhere. And so I guess that's resonated with some people around the world.
So how many videos do you have up there now? Ballpark.
Yeah, ballpark is, I think coming up to 700 or something. Maybe 600 and something.
So that's roughly 600 in 8 years. So that's 75 videos a year. I think, if my math is right?
Don't ask me about math.
Yeah, I think it's 75 videos a year. So that's about 1.5, call it 3 videos every 2 weeks. That's a lot. And they're not short videos.
Yeah, they're long. Yeah.
So that's a lot. So how do you, so you're on the road, roughly a third of the year?
I mean, that's changed. At that time when I started, that was when I started to become, really a touring dude. And eventually, I gave up on, the teaching. I said to myself, in an ideal world, I would be affiliated with what's now BIM 1 day a week, and then I would tour the rest. And then as soon as I sort of set that as a goal, it happened that I didn't have time to teach at all. And then I stopped teaching and then just did the touring and did the jam tracks and the music, the guitar music. So yeah, that's been my main focus for quite a long time. Just touring and making music. So
the backing tracks, is it okay if I call them backing tracks? You want to call them jam tracks? What do you prefer?
I mean, whatever. I mean, sometimes backing tracks makes you think that it's somebody else's track and you've made a okay, so jam tracks version of it. Well, that's why I prefer to call them jam tracks.
It
probably more clearly explains what it is.
Yeah,
because I have a very small amount of tracks that are other people's tracks.
Yeah,
most of it is original music.
Yeah. Yes. So the jam tracks that you make, you don't do those when you're on the road, I'm assuming.
No, I do, man. Yeah.
Oh, so you carry around your lighting gear, your camera, and all that shit. Holy. Yeah.
Well, not really lighting gear. I mean, as you'll see, I put a lot more focus on the audio side than the visual side in my video.
No. But let me tell you something, which everybody should know. When you're making videos, that's what you got to focus on first. Because if the audio is shit, people will tolerate less than stellar video with good audio.
Yeah.
They will not tolerate shitty audio with great video even.
Absolutely. It sucks.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure.
No, that's the thing, and also it's not, my passion is in the audio, not really in the visuals so much. I mean, I care about how things look, but I just carry a GoPro with me and then try to get the light right. And, I've learned a few things along the way, what not to do.
Yeah.
I've learned that the hard way, but in my studio, I have proper lights and stuff, but when I'm out there, I just record, even sometimes when the GoPro isn't doing it properly, or I'm, out of battery or whatever, I'll just do it on my phone and then just sync the audio, for the track. So it became like a few years ago. I mean, very, very early on, I started filming everywhere I go and recording everywhere I go. But in the last 3 or 4 years, I've created this kind of a habit or goal or whatever, that I don't go anywhere anymore without shooting at least 1 or 2 like intros for jam tracks. So when I go away on tour, even if I know it's going to be very busy, I'll have some pre-made jam tracks, and then I'll shoot some intros wherever I am. So even if I'm in a city just for a day or whatever, I'll always try and just at least shoot one video, just as a fun, like, little diary or whatever, of stuff, even just for myself to look back and be like, oh yeah, that was that year I was there and I made that track or whatever.
Yeah.
So and also it makes me obviously pushes myself to be like productive and just always get shit done.
So that's a whole other topic we go down, but how did you start, or when did you start monetizing this project?
Pretty early on. I mean, monetizing in terms of the ad revenue and stuff from YouTube was pretty early on. Like I think. I mean,
yeah, they didn't need you didn't even need 1,000 subscribers back then.
No, that came about the years after that. They put that threshold on it, that you have to have a certain amount before.
I thought they only did that like about a year and a half ago.
No, it's super recent. Yeah. So I started to see that there might be some way of making some money pretty early on. Just, I was like, that's interesting. But it didn't. It didn't become anything for years. Sure. It wasn't anything that I could rely on in any kind of way. But it was just a flame that I kept on feeding. And
why?
Because I love it.
Yeah.
I love to, and it fits in with my general, life mission as a musician, to connect with people. It's like, I feel that it's, I mean, that sounds kind of like arrogant or whatever, but like I'm trying to walk a path that isn't, the obvious one. I try and walk paths creatively and in life that in ways that aren't necessarily like your run of the mill kind of way. And because then you might end up all, failing or whatever, but usually that kind of approach ends you up in exciting places. So that's kind of my MO, I like to experiment with music and with life. And I just thought that this is a fun way to connect with people and to build on that, because it was obviously something was working. I figured out at some point along the way, and then I was like, well, I wonder what happens if I do more of it. And then I do more of it, and I do more of it, and then just kept on feeding it, while I was out touring. And like I said, early on, I'm kind of a workaholic anyway, so it was somewhere to put my workaholism. You know what I'm saying? Like it was something to do as well when you're sitting bored out of your brain on a tour bus, or like waiting in an airport or whatever. I just put on my headphones and disappear into a jam track, and I felt like it was also a great way to kind of practice as a musician and somebody who produces music. It's a great way to practice like being less critical of yourself and just like actually getting shit done.
Yeah,
like felt like it was a way to practice that muscle as well. Whereas because it seems like when you're making, doing a session for other people's records or whatever, you can let stuff flow and you can be creative, or if I do a writing session with other musicians and or artists and stuff, it's like you let things flow, and then as soon as you're doing your own thing, it's like something happens and things become like, and you start to second guess yourself, and it's like it's just this whole other game. And I felt like that was a way to combat to have a different, to practice being more like flowing, to letting the creative juices flow in a different way. Because when I make jam tracks, it's just like flow, bang, put it out into the world. And I enjoy that. And it means that there's a bunch of stuff out there that I'm not that proud of, and stuff, it's like regrettable that some people can, they can go on Google and they can look me up and they might chance upon something which is kind of rough and maybe not amazing. But that's what I have to live with, some of that, the sum total of all these actions I've taken. I do feel a little bit proud of that, because it has become something now which I can say, wow, okay, yeah, that must have resonated with somebody out there in the world, and some people are getting some joy from it, which at the end of the day is the goal.
What, man, I think you're doing a great job with that thing, because I've listened to tons of them before I knew who you were, and you do a really good job on there. The quality of the audio is fantastic, and what I like about it is it's many times there's, like, I play a lot of blues, and there's a lot of blues tracks out there which are basically some version of the same track. I mean, blues is blues, right? But what I like about your tracks is that it's very varied, and I could still play a blues, and I could still play blues or something thereabout that might in my head sound like blues, but it's not the same, 1-4-5 thing. There's tons of different stuff there. So you're doing a really good job with it, I think, for whatever that's worth. How many, if you're comfortable saying, maybe it's on there, like number of subscribers you have, and if you're not, that's totally cool also.
Oh no, that's cool. I have 150,000.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I just hit 150,000. Thanks, man.
Anyway, yeah, but I think you're doing a great job, and I really give you a lot of credit, because I know exactly how much I've built many content-based businesses, and I know you have to be very disciplined, very consistent, and it's a bit of a grind until it takes off.
Yeah,
it could be a grind until it takes off.
Yeah, I know it is. I mean, you were asking me how I monetize it, and one of the ways I monetize it is my tabs. Like I make, or I have a few people helping me make sheet music for my solos, which are on video.
Okay.
So, and that has become one of the main ways that it's monetized now. It's almost it's becoming as much as the ad revenue. In terms of how much people are willing to pay for sheet music and tabs. So that's really that's something, and that is based on the video side of it. So,
where do people buy the tabs?
Well, I mean, I have a few on my website, but I decided to go and give Patreon a chance, patreon.com, and I've got to say they do pretty well, and people know who they are and seem to trust them. So. It's worked out really well so far. And again, that's been a slow grind. I've just gone up and up and up every month for, I think almost a couple of years now. And
that's great.
So it took a couple of years to get to a level where it's suddenly like, wow, okay, now it's actually some kind of income. But I just kept on pushing it. Exactly what it is.
So it's what, patreon.com/Quist?
Yeah, Quist Jam.
Quist Jam. So patreon.com/QuistJam, and the YouTube channel is at, just go to youtube.com, look up Quist, or it's Quist at youtube.com/QuistTV, I think you said, right?
Yeah, that's it. Man.
Did you, thanks for explaining all that. And I like to go through this, because another common thing that musicians want to know is side hustles. What are some ways of doing side hustles? And, whatever you're going to do, you just got to realize this is not, I think I don't know where people got this idea of business that, oh man, shit just took off. I've consulted with literally 300 clients in the last 20 years in 110 different industries. I think maybe one just took off, and it was after killing himself, and then they just did one thing or randomly found a niche. But I don't know any business that just takes off. It's grind. You got to work it, and then it grows, and it grows. And that's great.
Even the Beatles.
Yeah, but I mean, that's great though. It's better than doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the alternative. I can promise you, if you do nothing, it definitely won't take off.
Yeah.
You were involved in dance as a kid, and the music was like your family artistic?
Well, my dad played the guitar, and my mom was a dancer. At some point, she was like a professional dancer for a small period of time. She went out with a jazz musician. So I guess there was a creative vibe happening, but no, they didn't make a living as artists or anything like that.
But it sounds like they were creative people. They probably encouraged, probably had music in your house all the time and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I definitely had a lot of, there was, it wasn't a quiet home, I can tell you that. There was lots of music, and like a guitar. My dad had a guitar that I could take off the wall. Although I did almost get a trauma that would keep me from playing the guitar after it. I had I took down his one and only acoustic guitar off the wall at when I was I don't know, 5 or 6 or whatever, and we had friends, family over. So I guess it would have been my cousins or whatever were in the room, and I was like, "Hey, I can play the guitar," and I played it, and I've seen people play with a pick, so I got a coin and played the guitar with a coin, and subsequently scratched the whole, just the whole body of the guitar.
Oh my god!
Where you usually have the scratch guard, and I just made all these really obvious huge scratches in my dad's guitar.
And then you put it back and didn't say anything.
And
right?
I was like. I'll just put it back. And obviously, it did not take long before he figured it out. And I was like, "I'm sorry, Daddy." But he obviously dealt with it in such a way that I wasn't too traumatized to pick it up again. So thanks, Dad.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not one of those that get annoyed with wrecked equipment and scratches on shit and stuff like that. Some people are they need their gear to be pristine and whatever. Yeah. I'm like, screw that. It's a working, it's a tool to make music.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I love my tools, but if they get scratches, I don't love them any less. They just have more of a story.
Is there any things that you've done, mistakes that you made along the way that were paying a dues and maybe a lesson learned from you did this and you shouldn't have done it, or maybe you didn't come prepared to a rehearsal? I don't know, something like that. Any lessons learned?
I think not being yourself, not trying to be somebody that you're not artistically and stuff is probably the biggest mistakes I've made in terms of and learning life lessons out of that.
Sure.
But man, I've made lots of mistakes all the time. I'm a musician.
Any advice?
Full of mistakes.
And I hear that. Any advice you'd have gone back? Any advice that you would have given yourself that would have helped you in any way, whether it's playing, performing, business, personal?
I think for somebody who's done what I have done and wants to do that kind of thing, I think the best advice is, to be a nice guy, man, and to know what you're there for, and to keep that in mind at all times. To provide the greatest service that you possibly can at every turn, because I think a lot of musicians are, sometimes people can get caught up in just this whole hey, I'm a guitarist, and I'm this and that, and I'm the other, and I'm the dog's bollocks, as they say, and it's cool. You gotta have a lot of confidence and a lot of belief in yourself, but you also got to listen to people when you're working with other people, and especially if you're somebody who's somebody's hired to do something, to come in and play a solo on something, or to come in and play during this show that is for something. If the show ain't about you, then, you know, you should probably do a great job being you in the context of what that show is about. You know, like knowing what you're there for and stuff. I think that is probably that's an important thing to be aware of anyway. And like just like general life stuff that I'm still working on, I would say, you know, like knowing what your actions do to other people, or what your actions mean to other people, you know, whether it's being late for a session or being late for stuff, or whether it's, you know, spreading a bad vibe or whatever, you know, all that sort of stuff. It's I'm so not saying that I'm perfect, you know, but I definitely, you know, I can think back and remember times when I was caught up in my own emotional stuff, and, you know, and some of that was translated into music. And when we went on stage, it was cool because it was like, there was lots of emotions in it. But at the end of the day, you know, nowadays I'm more somebody who strives to just generally make other people have a good time when I'm in the room, or like, and I'm not that good at that, I don't think. You know, I kind of envy people that are able to just like make everybody laugh really easily, and you know, is always like positive. You know, often those people come from really, you know, traumatic backgrounds and harsh backgrounds, but then they've learned to create all this joy from their life story. You know, and I mean, I sometimes feel like, you know, that's one of the things I'm working on personally, you know, to be better at being, you know, a positive vibe for everyone. And like I say, I'm not there, you know, but I'm like always, that's my focus nowadays, to try and have everybody that I work with feel like, hey, that was cool. Not only was it great to work with this guy, but we also had a great time.
Yeah, man. That is important. You mentioned Nashville before. That culture permeates Nashville more than any other place that I've been around. Everybody knows that they are in the service business there. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, which is probably why people are so good as well, because they just like focus in on their, you know, on their talents, and then they go and deliver it to the best of their ability, knowing that that's what it's all about, you know. And and obviously there's so much talent there that it has created a breeding ground. Very cool.
All right, let's talk about gear.
Oh yeah,
for a few minutes. What are you playing now? Like, what's your main guitar that you go to, and what other two guitars would round out your top three?
Oh man, this is going to be so predictable, but I play a Strat a lot. My first guitar that I begged my parents to allow me to buy with my own money that I'd earned as a ballet dancer. They wouldn't allow me to freaking buy my first guitar.
Why is that? Like, because it was a guitar.
Yeah, it was like a, you know, I mean, I had my dad's like beat up acoustic, but I was like, hey, I've made my own money. Can I buy an electric guitar? And they were, wait and see if it's going to stick or whatever. But eventually I got.
Were you the oldest?
Huh? No, I'm the youngest.
Oh, really? Of how many?
2.5.
Okay.
I have a sister and a half brother.
Okay. So the reason I ask is because like we had 3, and by the third one, it's like, can I? And I'm like, fuck yeah, do whatever you want. Yeah. Seriously, man. Yeah. I don't want any responsibility. I'm not getting involved in a decision I don't need. Seriously, you know, it was that easy. But the third one, you know, like, that's why I thought maybe you're the oldest, because well, you know, I don't really know. Is that a good use of spending your money? Are there better things you can do? By the third one, it's like, can I? Yep. Just, you know, seriously, man. It's just fucking burn.
As a parent, I totally hear you, man. I mean, I was my mom's second at that point, and I mean, I don't know, man. They were just, I guess, strict and wanting me to, you know, to spend my money right or whatever, trying to teach me a lesson or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, or maybe they just had a lot more energy than I did. I was just decimated by the third. I was just like a shell of a man. I'm serious, man. I was just like so toast, you know.
I hear you totally. Oh, that's funny. But no, I did eventually buy I bought like an Japanese ESP Fender Strat.
Oh, cool.
And it was freaking awesome. I loved it. And I actually lost it. It was one of my life's omens. It got stolen while I was doing a session, and after the session we got junked and went to the pub in London somewhere, and somebody took it because I was leaving it unguarded in the studio. And
that's a shame.
So don't do that,
kids.
I've been scouring the internet for it ever since, because I also just had it fixed up like by a guy in a repair shop, and he was like, if you ever want to sell this, let me know, because this is a really nice guitar now.
Well, dude, tell people, you know what? There's like people all over the world listening to this. I'm not being funny.
Right.
Describe the guitar, because you never know if somebody comes across it.
It's like this quite striking blue. It's an ESP Navigator. So basically a Strat type by ESP from 80 something, 80, maybe 88 or something. But and it had the sticker on it of like a woman blowing like what are those called? Bellows, that you start a fire with.
Yeah. Bellows.
With a pair of bellows stuck up the rear end of another woman.
Nice.
And then this thing coming out. It was like this creative.
Maybe that's why they didn't want you to have the guitar.
I don't know. It was pretty. No, it wasn't offensive. It was quite stylish, actually. I probably explained it badly, but anyways, had this pretty recognizable sticker on it. I'm sure the sticker is off now. And
striking blue ESP
Navigator.
ESP Navigator. Japan maple neck.
Dark neck. I've always loved like the dark woods, basically.
Yeah, I do too.
Rosewood. I had a Hamer with rosewood that I subsequently spent like all my teenage years just absolutely destroying that guitar. But yeah, so to come back to your question, the Fender Strat, man, my album Trigger was recorded like pretty much. All this kind of sort of lead stuff and trickery on it and all like was done on a Strat. So I couldn't really, it was hard for me to go and play that live without having a Strat. So,
what year, a new Strat, older?
Well, when I went and actually first, because a lot of it was recorded on an older, like a 77 or 76 Strat. I have two 77 Strats.
Oh, that's cool.
One is Sunburst and normal Strat, and the other is the same year, also Sunburst, but upturned. So it's a lefty that I turned upside down.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I really enjoy those, and so I've got a couple of those, and I recorded a fair bit of the album on that. But I couldn't, man. I learned the hard way. I did it at NAMM. I played some stuff from the album on that, and I just went so out of tune. It was freaking painful. It was just
really
the whammy bar.
Yeah, you're like, doing a lot of
when you're recording, it's all right if you'd go wow and you do it, and it's like, oh, that was cool. Now let's retune and do the next part or whatever, and you don't do that live, obviously. So I had to get more of a race car kind of Strat, like someone that can really a high performance type of thing. So in terms of the whammy system and stuff, it's like the Jeff Beck style one. So that's what I'm currently playing a lot, just a Strat. And then my other two, man, it will be the 335. I have a Sunburst 335 from 1967, like Larry Carlton kind of vibe, that I love that guitar, man. It's probably the one that makes me, that is the most addictive in terms of playing. It just makes you play, it doesn't have a whammy, so I have certain stuff I've not been able to do on it, so that's why I don't use that all the time, I guess. But I love that guitar. And then through playing with Bryan, I got into Les Pauls. Like I said, it's pretty predictable.
Yeah.
Strat 335 Les Paul. So I mean they're famous for a reason. I love all of those, and for certain stuff, the Les Paul is. I'm playing a slightly different kind of Les Paul.
What is it? Is that a vintage too? Because you have all those are vintage guitars. 67 335 and then 277 Strats.
Yeah. It's from 80s. It's called Custom Light, I believe. And it's from.
Was that like on a diet? What the hell is that? A custom light?
No, well, it's like where it's usually about, well, obviously the audience can't see this, but it's like how many inches is that? Like it's basically
it's slimmer.
It's slimmer, yeah. It's like a slim. Les Paul, and it's got like a coil tap, so you can get a little bit more of a Strat kind of vibe out of it if you wanna. With a single.
Was that modded or it came like that?
It came like that for me, but it's from 1987, I think it is. So it's also pretty old. And I just bought it when I was on tour, bumped into it in Canada, and was just like, "You're coming home with me."
That must be kind of cool, like when you're like randomly in a place and it's like, oh, I need to get a guitar here, and you have so many good reasons to justify that purchase. You know, I'll remember this trip. I'll never be here again. I mean, that's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, I bought most of my gear on tour. Like recent big purchases have often been on tour. Like when you find a gem, you know, because you always, I mean, it's a pretty good excuse to go and check out a city, to go to the local store and check out what they got, you know.
Oh, plus when you're on a tour, that's when you're flush with cash.
Yeah. that too. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So, you know, and just investment wise as well, in America, you know, it makes a lot more sense to buy an old American guitar in America, you know, than it does to buy it like in like England or Denmark or some place in Europe. You know, it's like they add to the price obviously once they make it over there. So my 335 was I bought that from London. I bought it on the internet, actually, that one. So that wasn't on tour, but then I went to New York to pick it up, had it sent to a friend in New York, and then went to pick it up.
That's wild.
It was kind of wild, actually, but I was needing it for what I was doing at the time, and I was like, fuck it, I'm doing this. I'm getting this guitar, and I'm going to get it. And I immediately shot a bunch of videos and just came straight with me on tour, and I loved it.
The 335.
That tour spawned other work, and, you know, and yeah, it was because it was with Valerie June, the American artist I told you about, because she did an album, Pushing Against a Stone, oh God, I'm going to hate myself for not being certain what her album's called, but it was partly produced by Dan Auerbach from the Black Keys.
Yeah, in Nashville then?
Yeah, I guess. Actually, I'm not sure where it was produced.
It's just Dan's in Nashville.
She's from she's from the South herself. She's like she's got the most Southern accent that I'd never met anybody with more of a Southern accent at that point.
Really?
I had, but not that we're, you know, friends. She's definitely the most Southern friend that I'd ever had at that time. Amazing accent. I love that accent. It's like the people of the North England for me. You know, the further north you get, the more
rough. It's a kind of a rougher.
Yeah, but it's also I think people also come across more friendly in some ways. I think the accent is friendly to me. Well, to me anyway. I think that from
interesting.
Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, people from Manchester, you know, can have like an attitude and be all like Oasis and do. But I feel that you meet a lot of very friendly people, and also they can sound very friendly. I basically, maybe it's just me, man.
It's interesting.
I love the accents of North
in England.
Until, of course, you go into Scotland, where it's even more awesome. I love Scottish accents as well, you know. So,
that's funny. And from an American perspective, the further north you go, the more difficult it is to understand.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But going south is where it becomes friendly. But I mean, Southern culture though is an inclusive kind of come and have a come in and I'll feed you kind of isn't it?
You're talking about south in the States. I think it's south in England.
No. When I'm talking south, I'm talking about
Southern culture.
South American. You know, like she's from Tennessee, I think.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and anyway, yeah. There's definitely there's like a warmth, I think, in the southern states. That am I right?
Yes, you are. What it is that except for if you are raised in New York City.
Right.
Because if you're raised in New York City, it's a really weird thing. And I have really good friends in Kentucky now, right? And in Nashville. And we've talked about this. And like, there's this band in Kentucky called Otis, and they're a bunch of young kids. And we had this conversation. And then Greg Martin and Kentucky Headhunters, those guys. And they were talking about how they had I know you guys growing up in New York think we're fucking idiots. And I'm like, man, and it is 100% true. And I don't know why, because I learned when I moved to Florida, I was like, man, I had to unlearn all these things. I'm like, oh, so just because someone has a Southern accent, it doesn't mean they're brother and sister and they're married. Right. I mean, it's like, it's just this weird thing when you're growing up in New York. It's a very rough, it's a rough place to grow up, man. Like it's not an inclusive. Well, you just said Southern culture is very inclusive. It is tremendously, and it's wonderful. And people are beautiful, warm people. Totally opposite in New York City, man. It is. You gotta be rough. Once you get through, you're fine. But you gotta. I mean, of course, I'm from there, so it's not. But I could see other people coming in, man. It's like, it's just a tough place.
I hear you. But so that's the general cliche, I guess. But yeah, I've met, some of the people I get along with the best are actually New Yorkers in terms of Americans, because there is also something,
They're very direct, pretty much.
Yes, and I love that. The one part of me that's still Danish is probably that. I do appreciate that. Like being direct. That's a very big part of Danish culture as well. People will most of the time will tell you if they have a problem with what you just did or said or whatever, rather than just like go behind your back and like bitch about it or whatever.
I think most European countries outside of England are pretty direct.
Potentially, yeah. You're right. Well,
certainly Germany.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Totally. Switzerland. I've talked to people all over. I had this exact conversation with a musician earlier today. He's from Switzerland,
right?
And he said something that was like, "Wow, man, that's great. You're really direct." And he goes, "Well, my dad, that's one of the things my dad taught me." And when we had that conversation, and I think in many parts of the, people think Americans are brash, but I wish they were more direct,
right?
Because people, I don't want to hurt your feelings. And like, man, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you're honest, but you might waste a ton of my fucking time if you're not, exactly. Which really will hurt my feelings ultimately. So, but yeah, I understand that. And then, of course, and I know from my wife that, many Brits are the same way. They don't want to hurt your feelings and they don't want to be confrontational, but you can be direct without being.
I have a hard time with that one. I have a lot of British culture in me because I've lived there since I was, still getting shaped as a human being.
Sure.
I'm still getting shaped now, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I am too.
Being young and taking on cultural stuff. And I love certain things about British culture, and things that I appreciate that Denmark doesn't have, for example, that the people are very kind to each other. Like they say please and thank you and all that sort of stuff. Danes leave a lot to be desired in that area sometimes, and which is also a different kind of it's a different form of being direct, I guess, when you just do something and then you just say that's fine or whatever. And I can appreciate it a little bit, but I've come to appreciate when people say thank you for something and like say please, excuse me, can I just do this? And then that's where English and British people can be. That's one thing that I really enjoy. That there's a lot of manners. That they've been taught that I think go a long way, and I've taken that on board. Sometimes when I'm like, say, if I'm at a restaurant or whatever with my parents and stuff, I'm like, feel like I have to like police them in some ways. But because
you look at the waitress and ignore them.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've taken aboard a lot of that British kind of stuff, and yeah. So I do appreciate that about British culture very much. But yeah. So then the less desirable one is the thing about being less direct and stuff. I find that's a difficult one.
You will find no more well-mannered people than in a small town, whether it's in the South or the Midwest, but smaller town people. And I learned anything I know about and I love being well-mannered, and I really try. Also, I really try to do, and I've always raised my kids, and I've learned all of that through people in small towns and in the South. Yeah. Certainly not through anything growing up in New York City, for sure. I like that too. It just makes things go easier. And I've raised my kids like that. And all the people always say, man, your kids are so well mannered. And I've been like, Great. Not in my house, but that's great.
Yeah.
Good to hear. But yeah, I hear you on that, man. I want to ask you a question about your record, Quist. The album's Trigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, again, congratulations. That is an epic thing you did. How long did that take you to put together, man?
Longer than it should have.
Oh, it was your first one. It always is, man.
Sorry?
First ones always are.
Yeah. It took me like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years of like just doing it, in situations that lent themselves suddenly to the project. And I was like, oh, I'm playing with this guy. I should get him to, to do stuff. And like, I was like touring in France with Valerie, and we were doing all the big like media stuff over there. And then I would catch the bass player and get him to like put stuff down in our like hotel room and stuff. And that was the most like guerrilla style recording. And then I had Guy Pratt, the guy
bass player
earlier, Pink Floyd and all that. He, we went down to like his proper studio in Brighton, and he did it with a producer and blah blah blah. And so it was just like situations where were work situations where I was like, oh, it would be great to have that person, So it was kind of a smattering of talent and ideas over a period, and also, I had worked with Bryan and seen his way of making records. Having like I said, participated in the making of the last stages of the making of his album, and that did inspire me a little bit. Actually, seeing the way that he worked, he's kind of like an artist who throws a bunch of stuff up on a canvas, and then he picks out. Then he just starts this process of picking out all the stuff that isn't necessary. But it's time consuming, and you end up with a product that is very potentially rich in sound, but is very difficult to replicate live. That's the one thing that I'm like trying to not do as much for the next album that I'm doing right now, to make it easier, more translatable to a live situation, because it's freaking difficult when you've made something like Trigger, where it's like I've literally just, like I said, got inspired by him and just like threw lots of stuff on there, and just like, tons of sessions of just being, trying to come up with creative things, and letting myself freestyle and trying to come up with stuff that I find interesting, and I've been sort of developing some techniques through years and years, and I wanted some of those, like the guitar geek that I am, I wanted some of those to be represented on that album, so that it can somehow be something that I can look back on and say like, yeah, well, at least I done that, and it doesn't sound like that many other people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted to have some of that on there. I wanted to have some stuff that it's like, when you hear that, you go, oh yeah, that's the thing that he does. And
it very much was like that.
Thanks, man. I mean, that was literally, much as, it probably means then that it will not catch an audience of millions and millions of people and get spammed out on the airwaves everywhere. At least it will have some stuff on it that is that you can say it's recognizably mine.
Oh, very much so.
The goal, man.
But the other thing you did, and I give you credit for this, is a lot of times, and I understand this, when a guitar player makes a solo record, in a sense, it's a business card.
Yeah.
But what you'll put on there many times is, the downside of that is, you'll have a jazz track, a blues track, a Latin track, a classical, and it's a bit of a guitar showcase. But the problem is, from the listening experience, it's hard to you know, I think people like to, when I pick a piece of music, it's because it's giving me a certain vibe, whatever it is. But if I have something like that, it's hard to, I might pick a song, but your record, I give you credit. It was very consistent, the whole thing, the music was, and it was very like, I couldn't even, it's like, it's rock, but it's like, I found it was like a lot of alt stuff,
it's difficult to categorize.
Yeah.
It really.
Tons of, you did the same thing where you put a ton of stuff up on their canvas, and, it was, I couldn't imagine how many hours it took. As I was listening to it, I'm like, holy shit, this is, and you had one song on there I just wanted to ask you a question about, cause I really enjoyed it. It was, had a funny name too. Double Yang. That was a really cool song, man. I really enjoyed that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's that does a little bit of the sort of delay. I do this delay thing where I volume swell the volume knob on every note, and then I have like a slap back delay on it. That's the kind of foundation that happens throughout that song, and it's just a kind of a weird.
It was a fun song, man. It was I liked the melody. It was a fun song. The other thing that was good about you use effects almost as instruments. Like your command of effects is like not normal, Like, no, I'm serious. I mean that in a good way. I mean, it's like you're using it's like another instrument. Like I said, is that your thing? Do you like, manipulating
I love
effects? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I freaking love effects. I mean, I to be honest, like I don't geek out as much as many other musicians, and like, but I'm always, in, looking for something that can create something special, and effects are, right there. The effects are amazing.
Yeah, well, you use them
because you can create really special stuff with by sometimes just altering your voice on the instrument can make you speak slightly differently and come up with new phrases and stuff. So I definitely like to play with that. I remember when I was learning guitar, I remember when I started like when I got my acoustic or my first electric guitar and I started buying pedals, I was scared because then I started to like save up and buy the new Boss pedal, and then and I thought, what if when there's no more pedals to buy, I'm gonna like run out of inspiration, and I'm never gonna. I'm gonna stop playing guitar, because then it just won't be fun anymore, because there won't be any other sounds. And obviously, well, A, I've figured out a way to have fun on the guitar that doesn't have to do with pedals, and B, there's going to be endless supplies of new pedals forevermore.
Yeah, I don't think you have to. That's like some people actually say, "Hey, Craig, you ever worry about you'll interview all the guitar players?" I'm like, man, think about that question. Like, seriously. I mean, like, come on, man. It's like, anyway. So talk about the top three pedals you like, because there's tons of geeks listening.
Okay, yeah. Timeline, Strymon Timeline delay pedal that's been steady on my board for as long as I've had it. Basically, it's been on my board exclusively every Bryan Ferry gig I've done, and all my own shows as well. Strymon Timeline, that's one of them. Another one that I use that you hear on the album quite a lot is it's called Octavio, which is the kind of fuzz Hendrix sound that you hear when he's playing with Band of Gypsies. Very raw kind of sound. Jeff Beck uses it in a cool way as well. Some of it sounds like you can make it sound like, I don't know, electronic growling. I mean, it can get really wacky, or it can just be a hint of "arr," and I like that. You can make some really crazy sounds with that. So those are my favorite kind of.
Strymon Timeline and the Octavio. Is that it's made by Octavio? That's the name of the company?
No, that's it's Jim Dunlop.
Okay.
right here. Yeah, it's Jim Dunlop, Octavio. I love those. And I mean, I've been signed with Wampler for a long time as well. Wampler pedals.
Sure.
So I use their pedals quite a lot. Euphoria, Ego compressor, and whatnot. So those are awesome as well.
Very cool, man.
And yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid of using the old wah-wah sometimes either. I do love that thing.
Which wah do you use?
Mostly the really old school Hendrix. Again, Dunlop.
Okay.
Wah. Actually, I love that sound basically. So there you go. Yes.
Desert Island Discs.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Octavio, actually, of that one, one of the things that I listen to still a lot when I'm like walking or traveling or flying is Jimi Hendrix live, New Year's Eve, 1969 to 70, I think it was. The Band of Gypsies, basically Hendrix Band of Gypsies, part of that album. I listen to a whole lot, especially actually Machine Gun is like my favorite. It's probably my favorite piece of guitaring. It's just so awesome.
I remember the player I told you I interviewed in Switzerland.
Yeah.
His number one record was, he said, no matter what, it never changes, was Band of Gypsies, with the Hendrix Band of Gypsies record, and he said my all-time favorite is Machine Gun.
That is freaky, man.
It's just this morning, yeah. Literally.
That's funny. That is literally, that's probably my number one guitar record, and it's not. I mean, it's I don't know how commercially successful it is or how many people know it outside of.
Oh, every guitar player listens to
guitar
this.
World, but of course, guitar world, yeah, and it's just, for me, it's just a perfect combination of heart and like nerve and like the gutsiness, and he's making that fucking thing scream. It's just like, you can feel the passion, but then it's also super flashy and like, you can get the same way that you would on a jazz solo. You can get the, like, he's taking you places and it's whoa up and down, and it's just it's the perfect combination of technique and heart for me. So that's definitely there. I mean, I love a lot of classical music. I grew up listening to, because of the ballet and all that, I listened to a lot of Tchaikovsky. So I might bring like either like Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker or something, or like the Mozart's clarinet concert. I listened to that so much growing up, and I like the way you feel when you listen to classical music. So that would probably be one. I'm trying to actually imagine what it'd be like sitting on a desert island.
I know. I'm listening to you. I'm like, he's really getting into this, man. You know what? It's funny because some guys like more of a percentage of people than you'd think go there. They're like, well, let's see if I was really on a desert island. I'm like,
well, that's it, right?
I'm like, wow, okay.
Because I'm trying to match. I mean, rather than just naming my favorite ones, I'm like, what would I actually want to listen to?
Yeah.
But then, funny, yeah. Man. And so I would probably, I mean, the last would be like probably like some really gutsy blues, like Robert Johnson, or jazz, like Schofield. Schofield's one of my favorites. So like, I bring one of his albums, or Parker, Charlie Parker.
I've spoke to John a few times. I'm trying to get him on the show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
I emailed him a few years back, and
he probably responded, right?
He went on my site and had a listen and wrote back some really awesome words. I was like, very cool. Okay, I just emailed him and he just
he seems easy enough. He seemed to be a nice enough guy.
I know. It certainly seemed like it. But yeah, he's very high up on my list of favorite guitar players.
John Scofield, yeah.
Yeah, man.
All right, so now the questions get a little harder, man.
Okay.
Most important things that you've learned about yourself through life and career experience, and
I mean, I've learned to identify, I guess, behaviors, and then and then work to change them. You know, I'd done a lot of work on myself, basically, like specific intentional work to try and well, for lack of a better word, create a better me.
I get that.
So, sorry, what was the question specifically again?
It was most important things you've learned about yourself throughout your life's journey.
I mean, it's that there are certain things I don't like, you know, especially when I see, you know, when you see your parents and you see things you don't like. I mean, I see things I love, but I also see things I don't like. And then I realize that I do that stuff, you know, so like sometimes being, for example, high strung about certain stuff, highly strung, you know, rather than just focusing on being on a good vibe and stuff like that. I definitely have learned to identify that kind of situation and then change it to be, you know, a more fruitful kind of situation. I think I've learned to do that better. I don't know. Does that answer anything?
Man, there's no right answer here, man.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
You
man.
passed, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's a tough one, man. I mean, like we were saying, you know, we're work in progress, and I've learned to accept that, you know, I'm not perfect, and there's some demons that you always like fight against, type thing.
I think so.
But then there's also others that you can just you learn how to change, you know, and then you see how great it is when you do change them. So
tell me something about yourself, Quist, that people would either be surprised to hear or might find a little odd.
Yeah, what's odd? There's plenty of odd things, but you caught me out. Something that people, I don't know. Probably that I'm actually I don't know. I mean, or let me just say, I am kind of a pretty private person, but like, I always try and share stuff. I mean, because of what I do, it's really, you know, you got to share yourself. Yeah. You got to share your innermost. But I feel like I have this constant inner battle in a way, you know, of like wanting to share because I know that that's the way, and then wanting to just be the private me that that I am. And I think that's, you know, that's a tough path, you know, like but I saw somebody the other day say something about accepting that they're an introvert. And when they came to terms with the fact that they're an introvert, even though they're a successful artist and go and, you know, entertain millions of people, they've accepted that they're an introvert, and therefore it's okay to be that. And I'm like, I think I mean, that's me basically. I definitely am an introvert, even though I try to maybe appear as not. And I can be, you know, I love communicating, like I say, with people, and like getting an audience to sing my lines back and all that stuff. Going back to what we were talking about at the start. But at the base of it, I'm kind of an introvert. But, you know, that's.
But you having a performance window like that gives you an opportunity to sort of maybe like step out of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like almost, what's cool about it is you don't have to convince anybody. The role is set up like that, so you get to step out without having to like get out of your comfort zone, in a sense, which is like to get people to step out. That would be probably like not something you'd enjoy, but it's already pre-set up, so you can just do this thing now, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to answer your question well, but I'm failing.
No, you're doing fine, man. There's no right answer on any of these questions. Believe me, I'm the last guy to think something's right.
I love it, man. I mean, like I've said before, I have huge respect for your show, and like it's really awesome that also that you all the areas that you dig into, and I'm just trying to do it justice.
No, man, you're fine.
I mean, being all guitar-y about it, if you're asking me something that people might not expect, even though I love pedals and I love sounds and I love to experiment, I am not really a gear nerd, and I know that that's not really fire on the that's not really fuel to the fire in terms of of a guitar audience. But I'm like, I don't really care that much about like what things are called and what the what this and that and the other. Like I care a lot more about music and like how it sounds and what unique thing you come up with, like than I do about like a lot of the technicalities in stuff that a lot of people, I feel so inferior when some people are talking about the how things are put together in terms of pedals or like the mechanics of stuff,
right?
or what all these different brands are and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm too busy making music with whatever I have in front of me, and then when I stumble on something that's awesome, then that's great. I'll create some more music with that. But my focus is on like music. And music making, and so I'm probably kind of a bit disappointing when it comes to being a guitar nerd, because I'm not really.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, gear nerd. I am a guitar nerd.
Yeah, I don't. I'm kind of weird about that. I think just like that's like ice cream to me, man. If that's your flavor, great. If it's not, I don't. I don't. Because I don't know much. I barely use pedals. I have pedal. I just plug in. I'm not even smart. I don't play enough as a lay person to spend time dicking around pedals. I can't even play. I'm trying to work on that and like trying to, I'm going to ask you these two questions because I think they're going to be tough for you.
Okay.
I'm contributing to your personal development for today.
Okay.
Most important thing your dad taught you.
Okay. He I mean, not in a direct way, but in a teach by doing. He taught me to be a good provider, to look after my family, like and like to work hard, but still to like give your children a sense of being there. Like that's what he did my whole.
That's great, man.
Childhood, like he worked really hard, and he was away. Well, he's like an entrepreneur, but he was, at the time when I was growing up, he was actually a CEO of various international pharmaceutical companies. So,
oh wow!
So he lived for a period. He lived in London. He lived in Paris, and he'd like fly back every weekend and stuff. So I didn't see him a lot. So like I only realized that in recent years, but I'm really I'm doing that as well to my kids. Like I'm not being there a lot, but then when I am, I try to make them feel that I'm really here for them. And like my very most, my main focus is to provide for them and make sure that they always, because they only have me in terms of providing at this point in time.
Sure.
So we're here on an artist visa, so my wife is not. Actually, she's not.
She can't work.
She cannot work. No, we're right now applying for a green card. Like I have another couple of years left on my second O1, like the alien of extraordinary ability visa.
Yeah.
But my wife cannot work, so like it is.
She's freaking crazy, man.
It's on my shoulders, So and it's always been like that, and I love that challenge and I accept it, but
But it's a challenge.
But that's what my dad. I think I took away from my dad, which is, just taking pride in that.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me, and it obviously did to him. So
wow.
I think that's one good thing. I mean, not that there's any bad things to say about my dad, but that's one good thing I can say about my dad.
Good, man.
He did give me that.
How about your mom? Most important thing she taught you?
Probably family, love, like being, it's a similar theme really, but like being there for your family. My mom's always done that. But she's also, a very direct kind of person. She's very direct, and she probably that probably rubbed off on me, like, you know, not being afraid to say to people what you think, you know, when.
And they're both Danish.
Yeah, they're both very Danish. Yeah, and my dad's the same. They're both quite direct. They can be quite confrontational. Really.
You were saying. You have any non-musical superpowers?
What am I? Have I got anything weird going on?
I didn't say that. That wasn't the question.
Oh, sorry.
Does you have any non-musical superpowers?
I do have one. Oh yeah, sorry. I do have one. I'm pretty good at spelling and grammar. There
you go.
I'm the annoying one, basically. Like when I read like you know, something that somebody's written, I find it. I've usually nowadays I learn to shut up if it's not asked for, but otherwise I will. If asked for, I will gladly tell what people when it's a you know, YOUR instead of the you know,
apostrophe RE
or all of that stuff. That really that I'm kind of one of those annoying guys that sees all that stuff. It sticks out in my head. And
does it really? Yeah.
So I do have that, but that's not really a talent that's very good, is it? This is just annoying.
Well, if your talent is annoying, it's good, I guess. I don't know.
But no, I don't know, man. I focus like really most of my life around music and family.
Which is great. Pillars. Man, that's great.
Yeah.
Is there like a best thing that happened to you?
A best thing?
Yeah. Like what's the what's the best thing?
Yeah, continuing in that theme, having my first child, and it was that was the biggest moment at that time, and probably the happiest moment I've ever had.
Oh, that's great, man.
Like that, you know, I mean, I'm sure you remember when you sat for the first time with your child in your hands.
I was fucking terrified, to be honest with you. I was terrified. I will never forget that, you know, like obviously I remember all of them, but like the first one where I literally just had this little, you know, she was born in water, so she was kind of like, you know, wet and slippery, and I just got her. She just went straight onto my bare chest, you know, and I just had this little thing lying on my chest that was like I was somewhere in my head that I had never been before, and that's nice, man. That was the happiest I've probably, you know. Is she a teenager yet?
No.
Hang on to that memory that you have.
Okay.
Like think about that all the time, because once she becomes a teenager, that, you know, you're going to be like challenged. I mean, you might not be. Who knows? Maybe, you know. But, you know, I have found girls that would. Yeah. I remember my daughter was like 11. Now, I think she matured earlier because her two brothers are much older. They're 8 and 10 years older than her. And like one night, and like we're just cuddling in bed watching a movie, and the next day I walk in her room and she's like, "Can you knock?" It was just like that. I was fucking devastated. I was like, there was no transition. It was literally that last night. Like I cuddled her, put her to bed, and kissed her, and then like, "Can you knock?" I was just, I was 11. I was devastated. You know,
amazing. Well, my oldest is turning 11 in 5 days.
Yeah, you probably have some more time. You know, again, I think she was ahead of the curve because her brothers were a little older. But so you know, probably like 12, 13. But man,
and we're kind of anticipating it because she has been like so easy and clever and understanding and just grade A student, want to be pleasing everybody kind of person. You know, she's just all those things. So we're like,
well, she might stay like that.
She's gonna just at some point she's gonna have her time, I think.
I don't know. I mean, you just don't know.
But you know, I could imagine it.
I hope not for you. I hope not. It was really difficult for me. It was like, and I never had girls and sisters, nothing. So I was like, this is like really I was like, had no clues, a fish out of water.
Right. Yeah, maybe it means something what the other people in the family are doing as well. Like literally, my youngest daughter just literally this morning had through like the one of the biggest tantrums we've encountered. So
how old is she?
She's 6.
Yeah, so that might be your kid.
Yeah, there you go. And also when that is happening, maybe other kids look at that and go like, that doesn't look like a good situation, and then they might mold their own behavior accordingly. Who knows? I don't know.
Just hope you're on tour whenever it happens. I'm not kidding, man. It's just like, I wish I was not home. I'm so happy it's over. It's almost like, I hate to say it like that, but I'm so happy I'm through that. It was just like so difficult for me. It was just so incredible.
Have you felt like a palpable, like coming out of on the other side type of thing? Like, have you actually felt like, hey, I'm now on the other side of this situation?
Oh, yeah. I mean, 100%.
Like teenage years where it's like you've got now you've got a very different relationship with the kids from when they were teenagers.
My sons I do, but they're older. They're 28 and 26. I have a great relationship with them. I talk to them all the time. We never argue. And if we do argue, it's like, it's a disagreement. It's not like I would never bear a grudge against my children. I would never not talk to my kids, no matter how pissed off I am. I always call them. I apologize if I was a dick. So I don't have a problem. My daughter, we're not there yet, but I'm through all the insanity, but I'm not there yet. But yeah, I'm through it. It just puts a lot of, for us anyway, that was the only thing we argued about, to tell you the truth, man. I'm more of like, man, if you fuck up, you're going to have consequences.
Yeah.
And you deserve them. And I don't even mean like from me necessarily. Like if, something happens in school and you get in trouble, great. It's called life. And, that's important that you learn that there's a consequence. And I had a difficult childhood. So my wife was always hanging her head on, you're tough because of your childhood. I was like, man, I am not tough. You're just like anything north of 0 is tough for you, So that was like, but it was we never argued with each other. Like there's never any, so that was what bothered me, because it just caused stress at my wife and I, because we just had different philosophies of child rearing,
Right.
So, but I'm through it. Yes. To answer your question. Thank God. There's I have no hair for a reason, man. Let me tell you.
I've got to just admit as well, I just took a screenshot of you while you were talking, because the way you were sitting, the 335, you've got a
shining off my head.
The audience can't see that, but it just gave you little devil ears, man. You just had devil horns. You got your head lined up.
It's just lined up right with it. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, right.
Right here. Just gave you like red devil horns like this. I was like, oh,
I look like a bunny rabbit. What are you talking about? See, you see devil horns, I see bunny rabbit,
Right, okay.
Devil horns. All right. Do you have any hobbies outside of music?
I like walking a lot. I try to walk a lot and like run and stuff.
Oh, so you're active. You do physical training or something like that. You get
in shape. Yeah. I have two things that like I was saying, when I go on tour, I usually record a jam track wherever I am. But another thing that I usually do on a day where I have a show, I usually take a run.
Oh, very cool.
So I mean, that doesn't always work out. Obviously, if you're feeling under the weather or whatever that happens on tour, then you're like, okay, it's a bad idea to go for a run. But yeah, I do like to run whenever I can and stuff. But yeah, it depends on the situation, obviously. But I do that, and I took up archery recently, actually, with the kids. Some friends of mine had been doing archery, and there's like an archery range close to us here in LA, and we tried that out. That's pretty awesome. That's the most unmusic-like thing I've done in many, many years. I just don't, what it's like. I mean, the region of life that's outside work, which for me is music and family. Like when there's family like those two pillars, family and work, they really fill up most of, because I mean, I've been really blessed to meet a bunch of really lovely muso friends over here, and like I have, friends that I go out with, and we catch up and we talk about often not anything but music, but also obviously about music, but so there is a little bit of that, but like I call that work still, because you're out with music people, so really.
Do you hang out with Joe?
Yeah.
He's a really nice guy.
He's a pretty recent friend, but yeah, I went and saw him playing in Hollywood not that long ago, and we met at there are these guitar, they're called Hollywood Gun Club, and it's not a gun club.
Is that thing on Monday nights? Or something like that?
I think it's any old night, but it's it's usually like 4 times a year or something. We just went to the Christmas one. Joe was there. Oh, good. And like Joe Bonamassa always comes to it, and like like big name guitarists and players come there and just hang out and geek out about gear. Yeah. So like people will bring like vintage guitars or vintage gear of any kind, and then people have dinner and then they just talk shop.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like guitar geek heaven.
Is James Santiago is usually there, I bet?
I'm not sure. Okay. I've only been to 2 of them so far. The next one is in January around the NAMM time, because obviously everybody will be in town for NAMM and that. So yeah, that's a really funny situation.
That's cool, man.
But Joe is a sweetheart, man. He's
really sweet guy
and super talented.
Really nice guy.
I really appreciate him. He was obviously the link between us. So
yeah, I'll send you his interview too. It was really good, really nice.
His interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to.
Oh, you've heard? Yeah, his was really good. Yeah. It was way back now, but it was really good. It's funny because I listen. I talk to players and artists all the time, and like what you just said. Oh, I had to pull I pulled down my first record because there's some stuff on there I didn't like, and I think to myself, man, I'd like to do that with some of those early interviews I did, because I'm sure they weren't. Yeah. You're finding you're finding your voice or whatever. I mean, I don't really care, but I thought about that a few times. Like I thought if someone says, "Oh, let me check out this guy's show," and they say, "Let me get to episode 4," I'd be like, "No, probably not. Don't look at episode 4." Yeah. But
I mean, man, I feel exactly the same in terms of what I have out on YouTube. Like I said before, you could chance upon some of my early stuff if you look me up, and I'll be like, oh man, don't look at that. But I from seeing other people that do like YouTube and stuff, you got to be pretty. You just got to be able to. It's action that counts. It's all about the action that you take, and some of it finds a great audience because it's great. Some of it finds a great audience even if it isn't that great. Some of it's really great, it doesn't find an audience. Some of it is just a total, like, it's out there. You're not proud of it, and it hasn't found an audience. And it's like, oh, damn. Yeah. But you got to keep on putting it out, And like somebody like Marty Swartz. I was wondering, actually, if you've...
I had Marty on the show, actually.
Have you already?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Because he's a really good friend of mine. We've become really good friends. And I've been on his, like, live Saturday show.
Oh, you have? Okay, that's cool.
Many times now. Yeah, like, I think 4 times now, or maybe more. I'm going to go on it soon again as well, because it's always a great hang. And the best, he's somebody who has that thing where he'll just, he's relentless, man. He just puts out stuff, and
his I'm not saying that, he's got a good work ethic.
Is bad, but like he's committed to first of all creating a bunch of great content. Like he just pushes it out, and it's very inspirational. When you see that in action. And it also makes you realize that sometimes it's okay if it's not, if it's not something you've slaved over for absolutely ages. It's there now, and some people are going to enjoy it, and that's.
I think I used to do this. I used to mistake pain for success. Like I have to go, like training in the gym. Like if you're not in pain, and I realized about 5 years ago that's a choice I'm choosing, not an accurate statement. And I never, as soon as I kind of realized that, I said, okay, we're done. you know, and I actually switched around. I said, if I want to do the other one, if I can't have fun, I'm not interested. So, but I used to be like very much like, well, I killed myself over this. Okay. That's because you chose to kill yourself over it, not because someone else wouldn't accept it unless you killed yourself over it. You work hard. That's it. Great. You know, end of conversation. And I felt so much better when I stopped that. I felt less stress in my life, less pressure, man. So
that's very awesome. I still feel like I have a little bit of that in me, that I feel like it has to be a work of absolute, like, you know, crazy labor before I can possibly think that it's going to be any good or whatever, you know. But often the best things you do, certainly as like when you're doing something creative, it's like often the best things you do are the things that just bang, 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 bang happen. Yeah. And then you have the guts to just go
put it out
and put it out, you know. And it's like the most natural things are usually the things that somehow have the best reach, you know. Like one of my jam tracks, I remember, just to put it into my geeky little scenario, like I played an intro solo. I just literally, it was the first thing that I just, like, sometimes it takes me it might take me a couple of minutes to find something that I think is a worthwhile as an intro to this jam track. And then, but for this, I literally played 30 seconds or whatever. And then I broke a string, I bent it up so much that it broke out. So it didn't break, but it just became loose and dropped dramatically. And but I managed to kind of save it in the end. And that track, I was like, I thought it was quite good what was on before, but it ended up like being a bit rough on it. But I was just like, vibes, I don't have time, I'm going to put it out. And that became one of my biggest tracks. It got 1 million views in. That's
amazing.
It was one, I think maybe at the time it was the fastest one to get 1 million views. I have quite a few that have 1 million views, but that one just went really quick.
That's amazing. Very cool, man.
Because of the energy, and I realized, man, it's energy. It's just energy. And it doesn't matter if something went a bit off or whatever at the end. It's like, and I did manage to save it and make save the note or whatever. But you know what I'm saying? It was rough and it was unintentional, but it was just. But
it was real. That's the situation. Real, And I think I know a lot of this from being in marketing and testing things over the years. We would test things this is back when you'd use direct mail, like a junked up direct mail letter, and that would often pull the best, and it had things scratched out on it. I don't know why, but I think, perfection is overrated to some extent. People said, man, that was really cool because that would happen to me. It's cool how that happened. It was reality, I mean, it's like when you see these shows on TV, I don't watch TV really at all, but reality TV, I guess, or something like that. That's not reality. That's not, you don't really just go to an island and find your soulmate. I mean, that's not, you actually have to live, sure, everything's going to be wonderful when it's just you're on an island, go back and pay bills together. So yeah, that works, man, what's your favorite? I'm going to ask you 3 more questions, dude. I really had a nice time and I want to thank you very much.
Likewise,
ahead of time, man. Favorite place you traveled? I know you've been all over.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, actually, or just before Christmas, I did a couple of shows in the Maldives, which was arguably the most naturally beautiful place I've ever been to. I got to do a little bit of snorkeling. I'm a diver, a qualified diver.
Yeah.
And I don't really get to do it a whole lot, but I got to do some snorkeling there. And
a few weeks ago, where is the Maldives? Isn't it freezing? A few weeks ago, it's December, no?
No. It was crazy hot, man. It's in the Indian Ocean.
Oh, is that where it is in India? Okay.
Yeah, it's we had to fly over. You fly all over the North Pole and then down over Russia and then Iran.
Holy crap!
And then we landed in Dubai and then we flew into over. So you in the Middle East basically, and then you fly over to this thing which is outside of the coast of India. So it's a tiny little islands, and it's that kind of blue water, just it looks like a pool, but it's got obviously no chlorine in it. I haven't really seen that before or been in that kind of thing before. So that was certainly recently the most beautiful place I've ever been to.
And that was with Bryan.
No, that was actually a bossa nova band that asked me to come and do stuff.
Wow.
And I've done a couple of shows with them before. We did play in Malaysia as well. They play all these crazy places around the world. And I usually say yes when they ask if it's interesting.
That's really cool.
And because I haven't really had a chance to, like when I was, like I dug really deep into jazz for a long time, and I thought I was going to be a jazz musician, and then realized that I didn't want to do that. But I still love jazz, and I in that context, I also dug into bossa nova, but I've never had a chance to play it with people who play it well, So when they asked, I was like, shit, yeah. I want to go
really cool, man.
Heaps and play some bossa nova.
How many hours was that flight?
Yeah, it was 2 flights. Like the first flight was 16 hours, and then the next was like 4 or 5.
Man.
And then we had to fly on another one and land on a little island, and then we had to go on a boat for 40 minutes. So all in all, with layovers and stuff, we were traveling for close to 40 hours. So
you had to be shattered when you
it was nearly like 2 days of traveling. It was ridiculous.
Did you get to sleep like once you got to the hotel, or was your show that night? Or
no, we got to chill a little bit.
Oh my God!
But not a whole lot. But I mean, it's fine. But then I don't get to chill because I got to do my jam tracks.
That's right, man.
I'm a freaking slave driver, dude. But it's nice, man. It's all good. I really appreciate those kind of opportunities, and when they seem right, I jump right on them. And also these are super nice people. So what can go wrong? You're traveling the world with
cool people, cool musicians.
Making music. I feel very, very, very grateful for those kind of situations.
Toughest decision you've had to make?
Toughest decision. That probably goes back to actually what we were talking about way back when I had my own band, and I said, guys, I love you so much, and we have this vision together, but I'm going to let it go at this point. I've had other decisions obviously since then, but that's one that springs to mind anyway. Just having the setup and having great musicians in a band, and then saying, do you know what, guys, I have to not do this, because we didn't agree on splitting up at first. Like it made a huge dent in at the time, my best friends, me and in our relationship basically, and it took us years to get back to where we are now, which is we have a great relationship.
Oh, you wound up connecting again? That you reconnecting? That's great.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. He's a fantastic drummer and an amazing human being. His dad, who just sadly died, actually, is one of the most famous drummers in Denmark.
Oh wow!
Played with like the Bob Dylan of Denmark. C.V. Jørgensen is his name, and he's a beautiful guy, and I don't want to be not friends with anybody. I want to be friends with everybody. Yeah. And we went through a whole lot together, but we just didn't agree on dissolving the band at the time. But I was like, I gotta not be in this situation anymore.
It's good that you're able to reconnect, though, man, because you got to take care of yourself. You can't do something that makes you miserable, but it's good that you're able to salvage that.
Yeah, you gotta, yeah.
You don't get paid extra for that, man.
Yeah, but life is full of those decisions. Deciding to move to America as well that was a pretty big decision for us. I had a pretty good setup in England. Like we lived in a nice place, and I had a network that was really starting to come up with some good stuff, and in terms of gigs and all that sort of stuff. And I just went, hey, yeah, fuck all that. Now I'm moving to a town where I barely know anybody, and all I know is that the sun shines a whole lot, and people seem nice, and I don't have a gig or anything. I didn't have anything when I moved over here. I was just like, let's just do that, because that would be awesome. So it was, that was one of the bigger decisions as well. It was, we didn't know what the heck we were doing. But
do you know any of the guys I interviewed in England? Any of the session players or the musicians?
Adam Goldsmith, I've come across, sure. And
Matt Pryor, maybe?
His name rings a bell. I don't really know him. But
Rob Harris?
Yeah. He's coming to NAMM.
I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah. The younger blues guy that you just had on.
Matt Schofield? No.
I'm having a brain fart. No, he got signed really early on, and now he plays with Tom Jones.
Scott McKeown.
Yeah, Scott McKeown.
Scott McKeown. Yeah.
He's been on many of the same sort of circuits as I've been on in England, and some of that same circuit actually, who also used to play with Tom Jones, is Peter Honoré. I wonder if you know that guy. Or
I've spoken with him. Yeah, I know who he is.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Danish Pete.
He's a similar situation. Like I thought, Yeah. Anyways, he's a Dane in England who's managed to pick up the English session scene, and then he also now has he doesn't do his own channel, but he manages a massive channel on
Anderton's
YouTube.
Right?
Anderton's TV. Yeah. So he's experiencing some internet fame right now.
Internet fame. That's another reason why I'm really glad I'm not that I'm anything famous, but I'm glad this is the audio only. I would shit myself if someone came over to me. I wouldn't know what the hell to do. Last question, man. What's been the biggest change in you over the last 10 years, and how much of this change has been deliberate and how much is just a natural part of aging?
Difficult question, but I think that it's in the way that I probably am as a person, and that I hopefully come across. I think I make quite a lot more effort now to be a nice person to work with and to be with. Like I think, like when I was a teenager or thereabouts, I don't think I was that nice a person. I think that because I had a lot of success when I was a child, and I got onto the ballet and all that sort of stuff, and I was like, I guess the most used boy of that age in that, at that period I got used a lot, and I had some solo things, and I traveled the world. I danced at the Met, and I experienced that thing where I remember very specifically. I was, I don't know, like 10 or 12 or something, and I remember coming out of the Met and reporters and like people coming up to me, wanting to have my autograph.
At 10?
At whatever I was, like, and I can't have been any more than 11 or 12.
That's like almost weird, isn't it?
Yeah, so, and I think that, put me in a direction, like, my head was like,
got a big ego.
Yeah, I'm that dude that does that shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's me, man. I made some really great friends in my teenage years. Actually, that drummer was one of them, and we played together for like a decade. From when we were like mid-teens to like 25, and they're all doing well in music and whatnot, but we spent so much time together, and they were basically like hippies but very thoughtful about many things. So they really got me onto. I felt like I was becoming a better person by hanging out with them. At the beginning, I remember feeling like they influenced me in a way that it was probably a good way. So I like to think and hope that I've become a better person than I maybe was at some point during those years. And I think that's the main thing that I've worked on. You said intentionally or unintentionally. I think intentionally I have put a lot of work into like trying to be more aware of like being somebody who is nice to encounter, rather than like somebody who's like,
a dick.
Like somebody who gets caught up in their own situation, and we all have problems, and we all have like issues, and we're all stressed out, and we're all tired, and have things on our mind when we're meant to be doing something. And I think being there in the moment is like one of my main things. I try and be there, and I'm not at all where I'd like to be in terms of that, but I really do try to do that, to be there in every moment when I'm with somebody and that sort of thing. That was the main thing I've learned. I remember I saw your questions. I went through your questions before we did this, and I thought, was he actually going to ask? And one of them was who gave you the the best advice? And there was actually like a teacher at school. Like, she saw how like I had this kind of ability to not be in the moment, but just always be like thinking about things and thinking too much, basically being in my own head, which sometimes can affect other people as well negatively. So she gave me this when I finished school. Basically, she gave me this poem, which was basically carpe diem, like seize the day, and I took that with me, and I think about it quite often, actually. Like,
that's very cool.
Literally a great piece of advice from somebody who was like that I haven't seen since, for so many years, but I still think about that.
You want to give her a shout out? You never know.
Yeah, Bodil Larsen is her name. Like this Danish, she was my Danish teacher. So language. And I spent. She was definitely very influential. And what
was her first name? Bobo?
Bodil, Bodil, Bodil Larsen.
Oh, Bodil, yeah. And
also because I went to ballet school, which was like it was like a 24/7 kind of thing. There wasn't a normal school, so if you were in plays, you just wouldn't go to school.
Wow.
So I would be in rehearsals all the time and just not learn anything but ballet. So like I was like undernourished when it comes to like, learning stuff.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So when I actually came into I decided to, stop it myself. And then when I came into school, like she was there and basically saw me, like she helped me like, adapt. It wasn't like a posh school or like a good, it was like a all right school. But not like, it was just like a run of the mill school basically. But she like took, she really helped me sort of adapt to a real world scenario, having come from this fucking crazy ballet world situation.
That's cool, man. She sounds like she impacted you a lot.
She saw I had this, ability to get lost in my own like workaholic, weird, thinking about everything world. And she said, be there, man, be in the moment. And I've tried to live that ever since. But I think in recent years, I've maybe learning how to do it better.
Dude, I can't first of all, thank you for your time. You've been incredibly generous. You've been very open, and thank you for your sincerity and for being such a nice guy.
Sure. Awesome hanging with you, man.
Likewise, for sure, man. And I want to tell people, and I'm really happy for all the good stuff you got going on, because I know how hard you work. I want to tell people, first of all, if you're a guitar player, check out Quist. Musically, he's a really great guitar player. He's got his own thing. Very talented guy, super intense. And if you're a guitar player, also check out his jam tracks, because he's built up what he's built up is really awesome. And let me tell you where to find all those things. First of all, he goes by Quist. His name is Jacob Quistgaard, Quistgaard. Man, it's so cool that in like Nordic or like in Sweden, it's the same thing. They always spell things with like 2 S's. Carlson, Carlsson. This is cool. Like Quistgaard, I wish my name was Garber, like Gaarber. I might just change it just because. So here's where to find Quist. First of all, check out his last album. It's called Trigger. It's on Spotify, and you can also go to his website and find all his music there. He's got a bunch of music. I don't use Spotify, I use Apple, but I'm assuming it's all on Spotify too. He's got tons of stuff there. Check it all out. Go to his website. It's Quistorama, Quisto Rama, Rama. Also, check out his jam tracks. Again, you can get there through Quistorama, but also go and subscribe to his YouTube channel. And just go to YouTube and look up Quist, Quist, or else I think the channel is Quist TV, like television. And he's got really good tracks you can buy, and you can also buy the tabs. Remember those things that I said I can't play? That's because I don't buy the tabs. I need to. So go buy the tabs and the tracks. Check out Trigger. And if you are looking to hire Quist for session work or production, you can do that too. What's the best way to do that? Is there a contact tab on your?
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
okay.
You can email me through the website. Yeah.
and that's it, man. Anything I forgot? Anything I'm missing?
That's just absolutely beautiful, man.
Thank you for everything. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it with a friend on your social media channels. We appreciate your support with that. Thanks again to Quist for spending time with us. Really, really thank you very much. And please go check out Quist on his YouTube channel and at his website, Quistorama. Support all his work he's doing. He's a really great musician and a very talented guy as production and tracks as well. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com, sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.